The judge had just asked my mother-in-law one simple question. "Mrs. Whitmore, did you ask your family to vote on whether this child should be removed from his mother?" The courtroom went so quiet I could hear the soft hum of the ceiling lights. My mother-in-law, Evelyn Whitmore, sat at the petitioner's table in a cream designer suit, pearls at her throat, one hand resting dramatically over her heart like she was the injured party. Behind her sat 12 members of my late husband's family, the same 12 people who had raised their hands 7 days earlier when Evelyn asked, "Who believes Claire is no longer fit to raise my grandson?" My son, Noah, had been sitting beside me when they voted. He was 6 years old. He had worn his little navy sweater vest because he thought we were going to a family dinner for his father's birthday. Instead, he watched his grandmother turn an entire dining room into a courtroom without a judge. He watched uncles, aunts, cousins, and family friends raise their hands to decide whether his mother should be pushed out of his life. He cried into my side and whispered, "Mommy, why do they want me to leave you?" I did not scream. I did not curse. I did not throw a glass. I picked up my son, walked out of that house, drove home, and called the attorney my husband had told me to call if his mother ever became exactly who he feared she would become. Now, 1 week later, we were in real court, and Evelyn was about to learn that the family vote she thought would destroy me had triggered a letter my husband wrote before he died. A sealed letter, signed, notarized, witnessed by 2 attorneys, addressed to the judge, and opened only if his family ever tried to take our son from me. The judge looked down at the envelope in front of him. Then he looked back at Evelyn. "Before this court hears another word about family values," he said, "we are going to read the child's father's statement into the record." Evelyn's face changed, not much, just enough. The confident sorrow slipped. The pearls stopped moving under her fingers. Her attorney leaned toward her and whispered something fast. My brother-in-law stopped smiling, and for the first time since I had married into the Whitmore family, all of them looked at me, like they were not sure I was the weakest person in the room anymore. Before I tell you what my husband's letter said, you need to understand what happened at that family dinner, and why Evelyn Whitmore believed she had the right to vote me out of motherhood. My name is Claire Whitmore. I was 33 years old when my husband, Daniel, died. 34 when his family tried to take my son. Daniel and I were married for 8 years. We met in a hospital elevator, of all places. I was a pediatric occupational therapist, finishing a 12-hour day, carrying a tote full of sensory toys, therapy notes, and half-eaten granola bars. He was standing in the corner wearing a wrinkled suit and holding a bouquet of sunflowers like they were evidence in a crime. He looked exhausted. I looked worse. The elevator stopped between floors for 11 minutes. The lights flickered. I sat down on the floor because my feet hurt. He looked at the flowers and said, "These were supposed to say I'm sorry, but now I think they're saying I'm trapped with a stranger who hates elevators." I laughed. That was how it started. Daniel was a family law attorney, but not the sleek, rich kind who turned divorces into blood sport. He handled custody disputes, guardianship cases, and protective orders. He represented exhausted mothers, grandparents who had stepped in when no one else would, fathers trying to prove they were safe, teenagers aging out of bad homes. He said family law was where love and control went to court wearing the same suit. I did not understand how right he was until much later. Daniel came from money. Old Nashville money. Not billionaire money, but polished, established, church pew, private school, country club, foundation board money. The Whitmore name was on hospital plaques, school wings, scholarship funds, and enough charity brochures to make people assume kindness was genetic. His mother, Evelyn Whitmore, was the face of that legacy. She chaired the Whitmore Children's Foundation. She hosted annual fundraising luncheons. She wore soft colors, spoke in gentle phrases, and could make emotional manipulation sound like spiritual concern. The first time I met her, she held both my hands and said, "Daniel has always needed someone grounded. I hope you understand the responsibility. Not welcome. Not it's nice to meet you. Responsibility." That was Evelyn's love language, assigning roles. Daniel warned me about her before I met the family. "My mother believes every person belongs in a place," he said, "and she gets dangerous when they step out of it." "What place does she think I belong in?" He kissed my forehead. "Temporary? Probably." He was joking. Mostly. Evelyn never said she disliked me directly. That would have been too crude. She said I was independent. She said I was career-focused. She said therapy work was noble, though emotionally messy. She said I had a modern approach to motherhood when I went back to work part-time after Noah was born. Modern. In Evelyn's mouth, that word meant defective. She believed mothers should be soft, available, grateful, and quietly dependent on the family system. She believed children should be raised near heritage, tradition, and wealth. She believed the Whitmore name carried obligations. But what she really believed was that control looked better when dressed as concern. For years, Daniel protected me from the worst of it. When Evelyn tried to schedule Noah's baptism without asking us, Daniel canceled it. When she called our home too small for a Whitmore child, Daniel told her Noah did not need square footage to feel loved. When she criticized my work schedule, Daniel said, "Claire helps children learn how to live in their bodies. That matters more than pretending to be available for lunch." When Evelyn hinted that we should move into the guest house on the Whitmore estate temporarily, Daniel laughed out loud. That one made her cold for 3 months. The truth was, Evelyn tolerated me because Daniel loved me, and because Daniel, her only son, was the one person in that family who could look at her manipulation and call it by its proper name. Then Daniel got sick, glioblastoma, a word that still feels like gravel in my mouth. He was 37, Noah was 4. 1 month we were arguing about preschool options. The next month we were sitting in a neurologist's office, while a doctor drew pictures of a tumor on paper, like making it visible would make it less impossible. Daniel handled illness with a kind of clear-eyed anger that scared people. He did not want false hope. He wanted plans, medical plans, legal plans, parenting plans, financial plans, emotional plans. He updated everything: will, trust, guardianship documents, medical directives, school instructions, password lists, letters, so many letters, letters for Noah's birthdays, letters for his graduation, letters for the day he got his heart broken, letters for the day he became a father if he ever chose to, and one letter sealed in a blue envelope given directly to our attorney, Marcus Vale. I never read it. Daniel told me not to. "This one isn't for you unless it has to be," he said. What does that mean? It means if my mother ever tries to use my death as a doorway into taking Noah, Marcus will know what to do. I remember narrowing at him. She wouldn't. Daniel looked at me with a sadness that made my throat close. Claire, she loves Noah, but she loves ownership more. I did not want to believe that, even then. Even after years of Evelyn's comments, even after watching her treat every family member like a piece on a board, part of me still believed grief might soften her. It did not. Daniel died 14 months after diagnosis. He died at home, in our bed, with my hand on his chest and Noah asleep in the room across the hall. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I remember the hospice nurse stepping outside to give me privacy. I remember pressing my forehead against Daniel's shoulder and saying, "I don't know how to do this without you," and because life is cruel, there was no answer. The funeral became the first battle. Evelyn wanted a public service at Whitmore Memorial Chapel with full press coverage because Daniel had been a respected attorney and the foundation wanted to honor his legacy. I wanted a smaller service where Noah could say goodbye without cameras. Evelyn said grief should not make me selfish. I said a 6-year-old should not have to perform mourning for donors. Daniel's written instructions settled it. Private family service, no press, no foundation speeches, no open casket. Evelyn smiled through the whole thing like a woman swallowing poison in public and saving the scream for later. After the funeral, she changed, not suddenly. She was too disciplined for that. She changed in increments. At first, she brought food. Then she stayed too long. Then she started rearranging Noah's toys. Then she suggested he spend weekends at the estate because boys need the stability of family heritage. Then she asked for a key to my house in case of emergencies. I said no. That was when the concern began. She told relatives I was overwhelmed. She told church friends I was not sleeping. She told the foundation board she was worried. Noah was oscillating. She sent me articles about widowed mothers and complicated grief. She left voicemails saying things like, "No judgment, darling," but grief can make women cling to children in unhealthy ways. When I stopped answering every call, she sent my brother-in-law, Preston. Preston Whitmore was Daniel's older cousin, though Evelyn treated him like a replacement son once Daniel died. He was handsome, polished, and almost entirely hollow. He worked for the foundation in a role no one could explain but everyone funded. He came to my house one Tuesday evening wearing a cashmere coat and sympathy like cologne. "Claire," he said, standing in my doorway, "Aunt Evelyn is worried. I know. She texts me hourly. She feels you're cutting Noah off from his father's side. Noah sees your family twice a month. That's not the same as being integrated." There it was. Integrated. Whitmore language for absorbed. I said, "Noah is a child, not a department." Preston's smile tightened. "You always do that." "What?" Turn every concern into an attack. I looked at him. Maybe stop disguising attacks as concerns. He left offended. By spring, Evelyn was pushing for legal visitation. Marcus Vale told me to document everything. Every text, every voicemail, every drop-off, every comment made in front of Noah. At first I hated doing it. It felt paranoid. Then one Sunday, Noah came home from the Whitmore estate quiet, too quiet. He went straight to his room and lined up his toy cars by color, something he only did when overwhelmed. I sat beside him on the floor. "Hard day?" He nodded. "What happened?" He pushed a blue car forward. "Grandmother said Daddy would be sad if I forgot I was a Whitmore." My chest tightened. "Did she say anything else?" He did not look at me. "She said some mommies love too tight because they're scared to be alone." I felt something cold move through me. "What did you say?" I said, "You're not scared." I smiled even though my eyes burned. "What did grandmother say?" He whispered. "She said I'm too little to know." That night, I emailed Marcus. He replied in 11 minutes. "Start supervised visits only. No more estate overnights. If she objects, let her object in writing." Evelyn objected. Beautifully. Long messages. Soft language. Deep concern. No direct threat. Not yet. Then came the birthday dinner. Daniel's birthday was in late September. He would have been 39. I did not want to attend the Whitmore family dinner, but Noah asked if there would be chocolate cake because Daddy liked chocolate cake. So I said yes. I told myself it was one evening. 2 hours, a meal, a candle. A chance for Noah to hear stories about his father from people who knew him before I did. I was wrong. The dinner was at the Whitmore estate, a limestone mansion outside Nashville with black shutters, massive white columns, and a driveway lined with trees too perfectly trimmed to look alive. Evelyn always called it the house, never mansion, never estate, just the house. As if every family had a private tennis court and a portrait room. When Noah and I arrived, Evelyn opened the door herself. That should have warned me. She wore a pale blue dress, pearls, and a soft expression that might have fooled me if I had not spent 8 years learning her costumes. "My sweet boy," she said, kneeling for Noah. He hugged her because he was kind. Then she looked at me. "Claire, you look tired." "Good evening, Evelyn." Her smile did not move. We entered the dining room, long table, white flowers, silver candlesticks. Daniel's framed photograph at the center. That made my steps slow. It was one of my favorite photos of him, taken at the lake, laughing at something Noah had done off camera. Evelyn had placed it like an altar. Around the table sat the family. Preston and his wife, Marielle, Evelyn's sister, Ruth, Ruth's adult daughters, 2 foundation board members who were apparently basically family, Daniel's godfather, a retired judge named Wallace Kenner, and a woman I did not recognize, sitting near Evelyn with a leather folder beside her plate. She did not look like family. She looked like paperwork. Noah sat beside me. He colored quietly during appetizers. At first, the conversation stayed polite. Stories about Daniel as a child. Daniel sneaking cookies, Daniel arguing with teachers, Daniel once rescuing a stray dog and hiding it in the pool house. Noah laughed at that one. For a few minutes, I let myself believe the night might be kind. Then Evelyn tapped her spoon against her glass. The sound was soft, intentional. Every head turned. Evelyn rose slowly. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she began. Daniel loved family more than anything. That was not true. Daniel loved truth more than family performance, but I stayed quiet. Evelyn placed one hand on Daniel's photograph. Since we lost him, I have tried to honor his memory in every way possible. But grief has not been easy on any of us. Especially little Noah. Noah looked up when he heard his name. I put one hand lightly over his. Evelyn continued. Many of us have grown increasingly concerned about the environment surrounding him. Children need stability. They need tradition. They need the protection of a strong family structure. And sometimes, even when it is painful, adults must make difficult decisions. My stomach dropped. The unknown woman opened her folder. I looked at Preston. He looked away. Coward. Evelyn's voice softened further. Claire has done the best she can, I'm sure. But she has isolated Noah from his father's heritage. She has refused overnight visits. She has ignored family guidance. She works with troubled children all day and then brings that clinical mindset into motherhood, treating Noah more like a patient than a Whitmore. My hand tightened around Noah's. He whispered, "Mommy? It's okay," I said quietly. It was not okay. Evelyn looked around the table. This is not punishment. This is protection. There it was. The oldest lie. The woman with the folder stood. "My name is Allison Greer," she said. "I am a family welfare consultant retained to help the Whitmore family evaluate Noah's best interests." I stared at her. "You were retained by whom?" Evelyn answered. "By the family." I looked at the table. The family did not include me in that decision. Evelyn's smile was pitying. "That is precisely the problem, dear. You no longer allow the family to function as a family." Allison opened her folder. "Mrs. Whitmore has asked me to observe and facilitate a preliminary family consensus regarding whether additional legal steps may be necessary." "Legal steps," I repeated. Noah's fingers curled into my sleeve. Evelyn sighed. "Claire, please do not make this ugly in front of the child." I almost laughed. She had brought a stranger with a custody folder to my dead husband's birthday dinner, and I was the one making it ugly. Evelyn turned to the table. "I believe Noah should temporarily reside at the Whitmore estate while Claire receives grief support and parenting evaluation." The room blurred for half a second, not because I was shocked. Because Daniel had warned me so clearly, and I had still hoped he was wrong. Evelyn lifted her chin. "I am asking the family to show unified support. All in favor of taking the steps necessary to protect Noah, raise your hand." For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Evelyn raised her own hand. Preston raised his. Marielle followed. Ruth, the daughters, the board members, Daniel's godfather. Even retired Judge Wallace Kenner, who had bounced Noah on his knee at the funeral, lifted his hand slowly and did not look at me. 12 hands, 12. Noah looked around the table. His face changed. Confusion first, then fear, then hurt so deep it made him look younger. "Mommy," he whispered, voice trembling. "Why do they want to take me?" I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Evelyn said, "Claire, sit down." I ignored her. I picked Noah up even though he was almost too big for it, and he wrapped his arms around my neck with desperate strength. "You will not discuss my child like property," I said. Evelyn's mouth tightened. "Nobody is trying to hurt him. He is crying because of you." "That is because you have made him emotionally dependent." Noah sobbed into my shoulder, and that was the moment I stopped arguing. Because I understood the room. I understood the trap. If I screamed, I was unstable. If I cried, I was fragile. If I insulted them, I was hostile. If I stayed, they would keep speaking over my son's fear until he believed his fear did not matter. So I did what Daniel had taught me during his illness. When the room is rigged, stop playing inside it. I looked at Evelyn. This was a mistake. "Yes," she said. "Your refusal to cooperate has been a mistake." "No," I said. "Letting you near him without witnesses was the mistake." The room went silent. Then I carried Noah out. Evelyn followed us into the foyer. Her voice dropped, losing the softness. "If you leave now, you will prove everything I said." I turned at the door. "No, Evelyn, I'm going to document everything you said." Her eyes narrowed. "You have no idea what I can do." I looked at the woman who had spent years teaching everyone that love meant obedience. Then I said, "Daniel did." For the first time that night, she flinched. Just slightly. But I saw it. I opened the door and walked into the cold September night with my son shaking in my arms. In the car, Noah cried until he hiccuped. I pulled over 2 streets away because I could not drive while hearing that sound. I climbed into the back seat and held him. "They can't take me, right?" he asked. His voice was so small, it cracked something in me that has never fully healed. "No," I said. "They cannot take you because a room full of people raised their hands." Grandmother said Daddy would want me there. I closed my eyes. "Daddy wanted you safe." "How do you know?" I looked at his face in the dim car light. "Because he told me." That night, after Noah finally fell asleep in my bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, Daniel's old notebook, and the folder Marcus Vale had given me after the funeral. On the first page of the folder was a handwritten note from Daniel. If she starts, call Marcus before you call anyone else. I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring, even though it was almost midnight. Claire? She did it, I said. There was no confusion. He knew. Did she file something? Not yet. She held a family vote. Silence. Then Marcus said, very softly, a vote? At Daniel's birthday dinner. In front of Noah. His voice changed. The friendly attorney disappeared. The courtroom version arrived. Tell me everything from the beginning. So I did. Every sentence. Every hand. Every name. The consultant. The retired judge. Noah crying. Evelyn following us to the door. Marcus did not interrupt. When I finished, he said, I need you to send me a written account tonight while it's fresh. Save all texts. Do not answer calls from the family. Do not communicate except through me. Tomorrow morning, we file preemptively. Preemptively? Yes. Emergency protective parenting order. No unsupervised contact. No removal. No school pickup. No medical access. We put the facts in front of a judge before Evelyn turns her dinner theater into a petition. My hand shook around the phone. And Daniel's letter? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Claire, if what you're telling me is accurate, we may have reached the condition. I looked toward the hallway where Noah slept. What condition? The one Daniel wrote on the envelope. I had not known there was a condition written on it. What does it say? Marcus took a breath. It says, open only if my mother attempts to separate my son from Claire. I put one hand over my mouth. Daniel. Even dying, he had known. Even leaving, he had stayed. Marcus said, we won't open it tonight, not privately. If we use it properly. In court, on record. What if it isn't enough? Claire, he said. Daniel was a family attorney. He knew exactly what his mother was, and he prepared like a man protecting his wife and never from a war he hoped would never come. I cried then. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just tears sliding down my face onto the kitchen table while Daniel's handwriting blurred in front of me. The next morning the war began. Evelyn called at 7:02. Then 7:05, then 7:09, then Preston, then Mariel. Then an unknown number that I assumed was Allison Greer, the family welfare consultant. I answered none of them. At 8:30, Marcus filed the emergency petition. At 9:12, Evelyn sent a text. Claire, you are behaving irrationally. Last night was an act of love. If you continue withholding Noah, we will be forced to pursue formal remedies. At 9:14, I forwarded it to Marcus. At 9:20, he replied, excellent, let her keep writing. By noon, Evelyn's version had reached the extended family. By 2, it had reached our church community. By evening, 3 women I barely knew had sent messages saying they were praying for my heart to soften. One wrote, children need grandparents, even when mothers are hurting. Another wrote, Evelyn is devastated. Please do not punish her because of your grief. Grief, that was the word they kept using like a net, as if grief made me irrational, as if grief disqualified my memory. As if grief belonged to Evelyn more than to the woman who had held Daniel's hand when he stopped breathing. I wanted to reply. I wanted to send them a photo of Noah's tear-streaked face. I wanted to say, where were your prayers when 12 adults voted on my child like a business motion? But Marcus had given me one instruction, silence, unless it is through me. So I stayed silent. That evening, Evelyn filed her own petition. Emergency temporary custody. She alleged I was emotionally unstable, that I had isolated Noah, that I was refusing family support, that I had an unhealthy attachment to my son after Daniel's death, that I had dramatically removed him from a loving family memorial dinner, that she, Evelyn Whitmore, as grandmother and foundation leader, could provide a more stable environment during my ongoing psychological crisis. She included statements from family members. Preston wrote that I had seemed cold and detached since Daniel's death. Mariel wrote that I discouraged Noah from identifying with the Whitmore family. Ruth wrote that I had outbursts of hostility when family tried to help. Retired Judge Kenner wrote that, in his opinion, a temporary placement at the Whitmore estate would serve Noah's emotional continuity. Allison Greer wrote that she had observed concerning resistance to family integration. Family integration. There it was again, a nicer phrase for taking my child. Marcus read the filing on a video call with me. His face did not change. That told me it was bad. When he finished, he removed his glasses. Claire, I need to ask you something carefully. Okay. Have you ever been evaluated for depression, anxiety, complicated grief, anything they can twist? I went to grief counseling after Daniel died. voluntarily. Good. Records? Yes. Any concerns about parenting? No. My therapist wrote a closure note saying I was functioning well and maintaining healthy routines for Noah. Good. He made notes. School records? Noah's teacher knows everything. He's doing well except when visits with Evelyn increase. Therapist? Noah saw Dr. Sloan after Daniel died. She knows about the comments. Good. I felt sick. Why does it feel like I'm the one on trial? Marcus looked at me through the screen. Because that is Evelyn's strategy. She cannot prove she has a right to take him, so she must make you look unsafe to keep him. I swallowed. And Daniel's letter? Marcus looked down at something off-screen. The court accepted it under seal for review. The judge will decide whether to read it at the hearing. When is the hearing? Friday. Friday? That's in 4 days. Yes. 4 days. 4 days between a dining room vote and a courtroom. 4 days for Evelyn to turn grief into paperwork. 4 days for me to prove I was not what they had decided I was over roast chicken and candlelight. That night, I slept on the floor beside Noah's bed, not because he asked, because I needed to hear him breathe. On Tuesday, Evelyn escalated. She sent someone to Noah's school, not herself. She was too careful. She sent Preston. He arrived at pickup time, wearing a navy blazer and carrying a folder. He told the front office he was Noah's uncle and that there was a family emergency. But Marcus had already sent the school the emergency filing notice and a written instruction that only I could pick Noah up. The school called me immediately. When I arrived, Preston was standing in the lobby arguing with the principal. I walked in and he turned toward me with a look of polished frustration. Claire, this is unnecessary. You tried to pick up my son without permission. Aunt Evelyn was worried. She can worry from home. His mouth tightened. You are making this worse. No, I said. I am making it documented. The principal escorted him out. Security report filed. Another brick for the record. On Wednesday, Evelyn's church friends began posting vague messages online. Pray for grandparents denied access. Pray for children trapped in grief. Pray for families divided by pride. No names, no direct accusations, just enough. By noon, someone had posted a photo of Daniel with Evelyn at a charity gala, captioned, "He loved his mother deeply. He would want peace." I stared at that post for a long time. Then I opened Daniel's old texts, a message from 6 months before he died. If Mom ever says peace, ask who she wants silent. I screenshotted it, sent it to Marcus. He replied, "Keep that." On Thursday, Noah's therapist, Dr. Sloan, called me. "I received a subpoena request from Evelyn's attorney," she said. My hands went cold. "For Noah's therapy records?" "Yes, Marcus already called me." "We will respond appropriately." I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry." "Claire," she said gently, "do not apologize for adults behaving badly. I hate that he is part of this." "He is not part of their game," she said. "He is the child they are harming." There is a difference. That sentence steadied me. Friday morning came too quickly. I dressed Noah in his favorite green sweater because he said it made him feel brave. My mother, who had flown in from Oregon the night before, stayed with him in a private room at the courthouse with a child advocate while I went into the hearing. Before I left him, Noah grabbed my hand. "Are you coming back?" I knelt in front of him. "Always." "Promise?" "I promise." He studied my face like he was trying to decide if adults could still be believed. Then he nodded. I walked into the courtroom with Marcus beside me. Evelyn was already there, cream suit, pearls, soft expression, a grieving grandmother costume so perfect it should have had credits. Preston sat behind her, Marielle, Ruth, the cousins, retired Judge Kenner, Allison Greer, 12 hands in courtroom clothes. Evelyn's attorney, a silver-haired man named Robert Haynes, approached Marcus before the hearing. "Marcus," he said warmly, "surely we can avoid making this ugly." Marcus looked at him. "Your client tried to remove a child from his mother by dinner vote." Haynes blinked. Marcus continued, "We are well past ugly." The judge entered at 9:03. Judge Elena Harrow, late 50s, sharp eyes, no patience in her posture. Everyone stood, then sat. Haynes began first. He painted Evelyn as a grieving grandmother deeply concerned for her grandson. He described the Whitmore family as stable, established, loving, and resourced. He described me as overwhelmed, isolated, and resistant to support. He used the word clinical 3 times. He said my work with traumatized children may have blurred my boundaries at home. He said I had removed Noah from a family gathering in an emotionally charged manner. He said temporary placement with Evelyn would allow me to heal while preserving Noah's paternal identity. I sat still, hands folded, not because I was calm, because Marcus had told me the courtroom would punish any emotion that confirmed their story. Then Marcus stood. He did not give a dramatic speech. He gave a timeline: Daniel's death, Evelyn's escalating interference, Noah's distress after visits, the birthday dinner, the consultant, the vote, the statements, the attempted school pickup, the online insinuations, the subpoena request for a grieving child's therapy records. Then he said, "Your Honor, the petitioner has framed this as grandmotherly concern. The evidence will show a coordinated campaign to pressure, shame, isolate, and legally displace a fit mother from her child's life." Evelyn's face remained soft, but her jaw tightened. Marcus placed a flash drive on the table. "We have a recording." Haynes stood immediately. "Objection. We have not had time to authenticate." Marcus said the recording was made by a dining room security system at the Whitmore estate. Petitioner produced similar system footage in Foundation Matters last year and knows it records continuously in common areas. Evelyn's head snapped toward Preston. Preston looked down. She had forgotten her own cameras, or assumed no one would request them. Marcus had. The judge allowed review. The clip played. Not the whole dinner, just enough. Evelyn's spoon against the glass. Her voice. "Claire has isolated Noah from his father's heritage." Then Allison Greer. Preliminary family consensus. Then Evelyn again. "All in favor of taking the steps necessary to protect Noah, raise your hand." Then the sound that broke me even though I had lived it. Noah crying. "Mommy, why do they want to take me?" The judge's face changed, not dramatically, worse, quietly, like a door closing. Haynes looked sick. Evelyn stared straight ahead. The recording continued. Evelyn's voice. "Claire, sit down." Me saying, "You will not discuss my child like property." Then Evelyn at the door. "If you leave now, you will prove everything I said." Then me. Daniel did. Marcus stopped the recording. The silence afterward felt heavier than the audio. Judge Harrow looked at Evelyn. "Mrs. Whitmore, did you organize this meeting?" Evelyn lifted her chin. "I organized a family conversation out of concern." "A vote?" Evelyn's lips pressed together, a symbolic expression of support. The judge looked down at her notes. Support for removing a child from his mother? For protecting him? From what specific danger? Evelyn hesitated. Emotional instability. Based on what evidence? My observations. Your observations include making the child cry during a family vote? Evelyn flushed. Haynes tried to intervene. The judge lifted one finger. He sat. Then came the question I told you about at the beginning. "Mrs. Whitmore, did you ask your family to vote on whether this child should be removed from his mother?" The room went silent. Evelyn's answer barely came. "Yes, Your Honor, but it has been taken out of context." Judge Harrow looked at the sealed envelope on her desk, then at Marcus. "Mr. Vale, the court has reviewed the sealed statement submitted by the child's father. Given the petitioner's testimony and the evidence just played, I am admitting it for reading into the record." Evelyn's attorney stood again. "Your Honor, we object to the prejudicial nature of a letter from a deceased party who cannot be cross-examined." Judge Harrow looked at him. "Counsel, your client's petition is built almost entirely on what she claims the deceased party would have wanted. The court is very interested in what he actually wrote." Haynes sat. I stopped breathing. The clerk opened the blue envelope. The same blue Daniel had used for Noah's birthday letters. My hands trembled under the table. Marcus glanced at me once. Then the judge began to read, and Daniel's voice entered the room, and Daniel's voice entered the room. Not his actual voice. Not the low, tired laugh I still heard in dreams. Not the voice that used to call from the kitchen asking if I wanted coffee. Not the voice that whispered Noah's name the last week he could still speak clearly. But it was Daniel. Every word. Every rhythm. Every careful legal phrase sharpened by love. Judge Harrow unfolded the letter and began. "To the judge reviewing this matter, my name is Daniel Whitmore. If this letter is being read, then I am gone, and my mother has done what I spent the last year of my life fearing she would do. She is trying to separate my son, Noah Daniel Whitmore, from his mother Claire." The courtroom went completely still. Evelyn closed her eyes, not in grief, in resistance, like she could stop the words by refusing to see them. Judge Harrow continued reading. "I am writing this statement while mentally competent. under the guidance of counsel, and with full knowledge of my medical condition. I have glioblastoma. I understand that my time is limited. I also understand my family. My mother, Evelyn Whitmore, is not an evil woman in the simple sense. She is generous in public, disciplined in presentation, and deeply attached to the idea of family legacy. But she has often confused love with control. She has often treated people as extensions of the Whitmore name rather than individuals with boundaries. I believe she loves my son. I also believe she is capable of harming him in the name of loving him. A sound came from behind Evelyn. Ruth, maybe, a small shocked breath. Evelyn's hands tightened in her lap. Judge Harrow did not pause. During my marriage, my mother repeatedly attempted to override my wife's parenting decisions, pressure us to move on to the Whitmore estate, insert herself into medical, educational, and religious decisions, and frame Claire's independence as rejection of family. Claire handled these pressures with patience I did not always deserve. I want the court to know clearly, Claire is the safest, most consistent, most loving parent Noah has. She is not withholding him from family out of spite. She is protecting his emotional stability. My vision blurred. Marcus slid a box of tissues toward me without looking. I did not take one. If I touched anything, I thought I might fall apart. The judge kept reading. If my mother brings a petition claiming Claire is unstable, isolated, overly attached, or unfit because of grief, I ask the court to treat those claims with skepticism, unless supported by independent evidence from licensed professionals who have actually treated Claire or Noah. My mother is very skilled at gathering voices that echo her fear. That is not the same as evidence. Haynes lowered his gaze. Allison Greer shifted in her chair. Judge Kenner, the retired judge who had raised his hand at the dinner, looked like a man hearing his own reputation crack in real time. The letter went on. I do not want Noah removed from Claire's care. I do not want him placed at the Whitmore estate. I do not want my family to use money, tradition, or reputation as tools to pressure my wife. I do not want my mother to tell Noah that being a Whitmore matters more than being kind, safe, and emotionally honest. I do not want my son taught that love requires obedience. Evelyn whispered, Daniel. It was the first time she said his name in that courtroom without using him as a weapon. The judge looked over the top of the page. Mrs. Whitmore, you will not interrupt. Evelyn's lips pressed together. Judge Harrow continued. If my family claims I would have wanted Noah raised primarily among them, they are wrong. If my family claims I distrusted Claire's judgment, they are wrong. If my family claims Claire prevented me from seeing their love, they are wrong. I saw their love. I also saw the conditions attached to it. No child should have to earn belonging by surrendering his mother. I closed my eyes. The room disappeared for a second. I was back in our bedroom. Daniel thin and pale against white pillows, his hand in mine, his voice weaker than it should have been. Promise me you won't let her make you doubt yourself. I had said, I promise, but I had doubted anyway. That was grief's cruelty. Even when you know the truth, loneliness makes room for other people's voices. Now Daniel's letter was pushing them back. Judge Harrow read the final section more slowly. I am asking the court, if this letter is ever needed, to protect my wife and son from coercive family pressure disguised as concern. Claire should retain full custody. Any contact between Noah and my family should happen only if it supports his well-being, not their image of legacy. My mother may tell you this letter was written under Claire's influence. It was not. Claire did not know its contents when I wrote it. I asked Attorney Marcus Vail to hold it, because I know my mother respects documents only when she cannot control them. I love my mother, but I know her, and I love my son enough to name what she may become after I am gone. Please do not let Noah be turned into my replacement. Please do not let grief become a custody strategy. Please do not let wealth sound like stability if control is the price. My son belongs with his mother. Signed, Daniel Matthew Whitmore. The judge lowered the page. No one moved. No one breathed normally. For one strange second, I expected Daniel to walk through the courtroom doors, tired but smiling, saying, well, that was dramatic. But there was only paper. Paper and silence. Evelyn's face was pale beneath her makeup. Her attorney leaned toward her again, but she did not seem to hear him. Preston stared at the table in front of him. Marielle wiped at her eyes. Ruth had one hand over her mouth. Allison Greer was taking notes too fast. as if note-taking could hide the fact that the entire foundation of her professional opinion had just collapsed. Judge Harrow placed the letter on the bench in front of her and folded her hands. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, "I am going to ask you a direct question." Evelyn lifted her chin. It trembled. Barely. "Yes, Your Honor. Before filing this emergency petition, did you disclose to your attorney that your son had left a written statement specifically warning against this type of action?" Evelyn's eyes flicked toward Haynes. Haynes went still. The judge noticed Mrs. Whitmore. Evelyn swallowed. "I was not aware of the contents of the letter. That is not what I asked." Her voice tightened. "I knew there was a letter." Haynes turned his head toward her. That told the room she had not told him either. Judge Harrow's eyes sharpened. "You knew there was a sealed statement from the child's father regarding potential custody interference by your family, and you proceeded to file an emergency petition alleging his mother was unstable without disclosing that fact to the court?" Evelyn said, "I did not believe it was relevant." The judge stared at her. I had never heard silence sound so much like anger. "Not relevant," Judge Harrow repeated. Evelyn tried to recover. "Your Honor, Daniel was very ill. He was vulnerable. He was frightened. Claire had constant access to him during that time, and I believe—" "Stop," the judge said, one word. The courtroom froze again. Judge Harrow leaned forward. "You have built your petition on speculation about what your deceased son would have wanted. Now that the court has a signed, notarized statement written by him, witnessed by counsel, you are suggesting his words should be discounted because they do not support yours." Evelyn's mouth opened. No sound came. The judge looked at Haynes. "Counsel, did you know about this letter?" Haynes stood slowly. "Your Honor, I knew the opposing party had submitted a sealed document. My client did not disclose its existence prior to filing. That was lawyer language. But everyone understood. Evelyn had hidden it." Marcus stood. "Your Honor, we also have evidence that Mrs. Whitmore's representatives contacted the child's school without authorization after filing their petition." Judge Harrow's face darkened. "Explain." Marcus handed over the school incident report. "Preston Whitmore attempted to remove Noah from school 2 days ago, claiming a family emergency. School staff refused due to prior notice from my client." The judge read, then looked at Preston. "Mr. Whitmore, stand." Preston stood. His face had lost all its polished ease. "Did you attempt to pick up this child from school?" He adjusted his cuff. "I went to check on him. That is not what the report says. I did not intend to remove him unlawfully." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Did you have permission from the child's mother?" "No, Your Honor." "Did you have a court order?" "No." "Did you have any legal authority?" "No." "Then do not soften your conduct with language." "You attempted to access a child at school without parental permission while a custody dispute was pending." Preston sat down before she told him to, then seemed to realize that was a mistake and stood halfway again. Judge Harrow looked at him for one long second. "Sit." He sat. "I should have felt satisfied." "I did not. All I could think about was Noah in the school office, watching another adult from his father's family try to remove him from a safe place." Marcus continued, "Your Honor, we also have copies of public posts made by individuals closely connected to Mrs. Whitmore, implying that my client is a grieving mother trapping a child from his paternal family. We believe this is part of a coordinated pressure campaign." Haynes objected. The judge allowed limited review. Screenshots were entered. Pray for grandparents denied access. Children should not be prisoners of grief. Some mothers need healing before they can parent well. No names, no direct accusations. But enough. Judge Harrow read them with the expression of someone who had seen this pattern too many times. Then she looked at Evelyn. "Did you ask members of your community to post about this case?" Evelyn said, "People are concerned." "Did you encourage them?" "I asked for prayer." "Mrs. Whitmore, this court is not confused by vague language." Evelyn's face flushed. "No." "Your Honor." "Did you encourage public pressure?" Evelyn's silence answered. The judge made a note. Then Allison Greer was called. She walked to the stand carrying her leather folder like it might protect her. Under Haynes's questioning, she described herself as a family welfare consultant. She said Evelyn contacted her to observe family dynamics and support Noah's emotional continuity. She said she had concerns about my resistance to family integration. She said children benefit from extended family identity. She said I appeared guarded at the dinner. Guarded. At the dinner where she brought a folder to help my husband's family vote on my motherhood. Marcus rose for cross-examination. He was not loud. That made him more dangerous. Ms. Greer, are you a licensed clinical psychologist? No. Licensed social worker? No. Licensed family therapist? No. Child custody evaluator certified by this state? No. Have you ever treated Noah Whitmore? No. Have you ever treated Claire Whitmore? No. Have you ever observed Claire and Noah in their home? No. Have you ever spoken with Noah's therapist? No. His teacher? No. His pediatrician? No. Marcus paused. So your professional concern was based on one dinner arranged by the petitioner. Allison swallowed. And collateral family reports. Reports from the same family members who participated in the vote? She hesitated. Yes. And you did not disclose in your written statement that a child cried during this vote. I did not think. Please answer. No. You also did not disclose that the child asked why his family wanted to take him from his mother. Her face reddened. No. You described Mrs. Whitmore's removal of the child from the dinner as emotionally reactive. Is it your testimony that a mother removing a crying child from a room where adults just voted on taking him away is concerning behavior? Allison looked toward Evelyn. Wrong move. The judge saw it. Marcus waited. Allison said, In context. In that context, Marcus said, would you have advised the child remain seated? No. Would you agree that the vote itself may have caused emotional harm to Noah? Haynes objected. Judge Harrow allowed the question in limited form. Allison's voice dropped. Yes. That yes entered the record like a key turning. Marcus said, no further questions. Allison returned to her seat looking smaller than when she arrived. Then Noah's therapist's statement was reviewed. Dr. Sloan did not appear in person, but her report was admitted by agreement. After Haynes realized fighting it would look worse, she wrote that Noah had experienced normal grief after his father's death, that his primary secure attachment was with me, that routine, emotional safety, and predictable caregiving were essential, that comments framing his paternal identity as conditional or superior had caused distress, that forced separation from me would be clinically harmful, that family contact should occur only under emotionally safe conditions and never in settings where adults discussed custody, loyalty, or legacy in front of him. Legacy. That word looked different in a therapist's report. Less noble, more dangerous. Then my grief counselor's closure note was entered. No concerns regarding parenting capacity. Appropriate grief processing. Strong protective factors. Stable routines. Healthy boundaries. That was all. Simple. Plain. Enough. Evelyn's petition had painted me as unstable. The professionals who actually knew us painted me as a mother grieving and parenting at the same time. The judge called a short recess. I stepped into the hallway with Marcus and almost collapsed against the wall. He put one steady hand near my elbow, but did not touch me unless I needed it. I appreciated that. You're doing well, he said. I feel like I'm being peeled open. That is not the same as doing badly. I looked toward the private waiting room where my mother was with Noah. Can I see him? Briefly. Noah was sitting on the floor playing with magnetic tiles when I entered. My mother sat nearby, pretending not to cry. Noah looked up immediately. Is it done? Not yet. Are you okay? That question from my 6-year-old nearly broke me. I sat on the floor beside him. I'm okay. Did grandmother say bad things? I hesitated. Then remembered Dr. Sloan's advice. Truth but child-sized. She said things I don't agree with. The judge is listening to everyone. Did Daddy's letter help? I froze. My mother looked at me. What letter? Noah asked. Of course he had heard adults whispering. I took his hands. Daddy wrote a letter before he died. It says he loves you and wants you safe with me. Noah looked down. Can I read it? When you're older, I said. Some parts are grown-up parts. But the important part is that Daddy knew we were a team. His eyes filled. Did he say me? Yes. Did he say Noah? Yes. His mouth trembled. Good. I pulled him into my arms. For a few minutes there was no courtroom, no Evelyn, no petitions. Just my son smelling faintly like laundry soap and crayons, holding on to me like the world was still deciding whether to be safe. Then Marcus knocked gently on the door. It's time. I stood. Noah grabbed my sleeve. Come back. Always? I said again. Back in the courtroom, Judge Harrow returned with a file in her hand. She looked at both tables. I am prepared to issue temporary orders today. Haynes stood quickly. Your Honor, before you rule, My client would like to address the court. Judge Harrow studied Evelyn. Briefly, Evelyn stood. For the first time that day, she looked less polished, not broken. Evelyn Whitmore did not break in public, but strained. "Your Honor," she said, voice thick with emotion, "I am a grandmother who has lost her only son. I watched my family fracture after Daniel died. I watched Claire pull away from us. I watched my grandson become less connected to his father's world. Perhaps my methods were imperfect. Perhaps the dinner was emotional. But everything I have done has come from love." She turned slightly toward me, not enough to face me fully. "I loved my son. I love my grandson. I am terrified of losing the last piece of Daniel I have left." There it was, the sentence under all of it. Not Noah, the last piece of Daniel. The courtroom softened around her. I could feel it. Grief has gravity. Even when it is selfish, it pulls. Evelyn continued, "I know Claire is his mother. I am not trying to erase her. I am trying to preserve Daniel's legacy. The Whitmore family has resources, history, faith, and stability. Noah deserves access to that. If Claire would simply cooperate, none of this would be necessary." Marcus whispered, "Do not react." I did not, but my whole body wanted to stand. To say Noah was not a piece, not a memorial object, not inheritance, not legacy with a pulse. Judge Harrow looked at Evelyn for a long moment. Then she said, "Mrs. Whitmore, I believe you are grieving." Evelyn's eyes shone. Then the judge continued, "I also believe you have allowed your grief to become entitlement." Evelyn's face changed. Judge Harrow's voice remained calm. "This court does not remove a child from a fit parent because a wealthy family dislikes boundaries. It does not treat extended family disappointment as a parenting emergency. It does not confuse tradition with legal authority." I felt Marcus exhale beside me. The judge continued, "The emergency petition for temporary custody filed by Evelyn Whitmore is denied." The words took a moment to reach me. Denied, not delayed. Not modified, denied. Judge Harrow kept speaking. "Claire Whitmore retains sole physical custody of Noah Whitmore. The prior legal custody arrangement remains intact. No member of the Whitmore family is permitted to remove the child from school, medical care, child care, or any activity without written authorization from his mother or further court order." Evelyn sat perfectly still. Preston looked furious. Haynes took notes with a stiff hand. The judge continued, "Given the evidence presented, including the family vote, the child's distress, the school incident, and the father's sealed statement, all visitation between Noah and Evelyn Whitmore or any adult member of the Whitmore family shall be suspended temporarily pending therapeutic recommendation." Evelyn gasped, "Your Honor!" The judge looked at her. "Do not interrupt me again." Evelyn went silent. "The court will appoint a reunification therapist to determine whether contact can resume safely, under what conditions, and with what boundaries. No adult is to discuss this litigation, family loyalty, Daniel's wishes, legacy, or placement with the child. Any violation may result in further restrictions." Then Judge Harrow looked directly at Evelyn. "And Mrs. Whitmore, you are specifically prohibited from contacting the child directly, through third parties, through school, through church associates, through gifts, letters, foundation events, or messages framed as prayer requests." Evelyn's mouth opened slightly. The judge had named every door before she could use it. Finally, Judge Harrow looked at me. "Mrs. Whitmore, I encourage you to keep the child in therapy and continue documenting any contact attempts. The court recognizes the harm caused by the dinner incident and expects all adults to prioritize the child's emotional safety." I nodded because I could not speak. The gavel did not strike dramatically. Real court does not always give you the sound you want. The hearing ended with paperwork and murmurs, but in my body something enormous had shifted. For 7 days, Evelyn's family had tried to make me feel like I was standing alone against a dynasty. Then Daniel's letter stood beside me. The law stood beside me. The recording stood beside me. Noah's therapist stood beside him. And Evelyn's room, full of raised hands, finally met a hand that could say no with authority. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn approached me. Marcus moved slightly in front of me. She ignored him. Her face was pale, eyes bright with unshed tears. "How could you do this to me?" she whispered. The old Claire might have answered, might have explained, might have tried to make her understand. But the woman who had heard her son sob through a custody vote did not owe Evelyn a softer version of the truth. So I said, "I didn't do this to you. Daniel told the truth before you could rewrite him. Her face twisted. You poisoned him against me. No, I said, you taught him who you were. She stepped back as if I had slapped her. Then Preston appeared beside her. This isn't over, he said. Marcus turned to him. It is for today. And if you go near that school again, it becomes much worse for you personally. Preston looked like he wanted to respond. He did not. Smartest thing he had done all week. I walked away before Evelyn could cry loudly enough to gather witnesses. In the private room, Noah looked up when I entered. He stood. I knelt. The judge said you stay with me, I told him. His whole face changed. Not happy exactly. Relieved in a way no child should have to feel. He ran into my arms. My mother turned toward the window and cried silently. Noah whispered into my neck. Daddy helped? I closed my eyes. Yes, I said. Daddy helped. That night, after we got home, Noah asked if we could make pancakes for dinner because court days need breakfast food. So we did. He spilled flour on the counter. I burned the first pancake. My mother made bacon. For 1 hour, our kitchen felt almost normal. Then after Noah fell asleep, I sat alone at the table with the court order beside me. Denied, suspended, prohibited, appointed therapist, no contact. Words that felt cold on paper but warm around my son. I opened Daniel's old notebook. The one where he had written reminders during treatment. Call insurance. Ask about nausea meds. Teach Noah how to tie shoes. Tell Claire where the blue envelope is. At the bottom of one page, written in his uneven late-stage handwriting, was a sentence I had forgotten. If my mother starts a war, do not fight for my memory. Fight for Noah's future. I touched the page. Then I finally took the tissue Marcus had offered hours earlier, pressed it to my face, and cried. Not because the war was over, because part of Daniel had reached through it. And because I knew Evelyn Whitmore. She had lost the first hearing. But women like Evelyn do not accept losing as correction. They accept it as an invitation to become more careful. And by Monday morning, she would prove that the family vote was only the beginning. By Monday morning, Evelyn Whitmore had already learned from the court order. Not learned in the way decent people learn. She did not read the judge's ruling and think, I harmed my grandson. I need to step back. She read it the way powerful people read limits, as obstacles. At 8:17 a.m., while Noah was eating cereal in his dinosaur pajamas and asking if he could stay home from school, just one more day, my phone buzzed with an email from Marcus. Subject line, she's moving sideways. That was never good. I opened it at the kitchen counter. Claire, Evelyn's foundation has scheduled an emergency board meeting for Wednesday. Agenda item, continuity of the Daniel Whitmore Child Wellness Initiative. They copied me by mistake, probably because Daniel's old foundation council list still includes my office. Do not respond to anyone from the foundation. Call me when Noah leaves for school M. I stared at the screen. The Daniel Whitmore Child Wellness Initiative. That was not a custody case. That was not a family dinner. That was not a grandmother begging for time with her grandson. That was my husband's name attached to a foundation program Evelyn controlled. A program Daniel had never wanted. I remembered him saying it during treatment. If Mom starts a foundation project with my name on it before I'm cold, burn the brochure. I had laughed then. He had not. I set the phone down and looked at Noah. He was trying to make a tiny cereal tower on his spoon. Mom, he said, concentrating deeply, if I get 4 pieces stacked, that means today will be good. I swallowed, then stacked carefully. He grinned. For 30 seconds. I let myself stay in that kitchen. Not in court, not in Evelyn's next move. Just with my son and cereal and the fragile mathematics of childhood luck. After I dropped Noah at school, I sat in the parking lot longer than necessary. I watched him walk inside between 2 teachers who now knew not to let any Whitmore relative near him. He turned back once, waved, then disappeared through the doors. My hands were still on the steering wheel when I called Marcus. He answered immediately. She can't file for custody again right away, I said. No, he said, not successfully. So what is this? Pressure, reputation, money, access. Evelyn has multiple lanes. If family court blocked one, she'll try another. I closed my eyes. What does the foundation have to do with Noah? Daniel's trust. My eyes opened. His trust is private. It is. But Evelyn has always believed Whitmore money belongs under Whitmore supervision. The court order cut off direct contact. She may be trying to create a public-facing argument that Noah's inheritance should be managed through the foundation for his wellness and legacy. I felt sick. Daniel had left Noah a trust. Carefully structured. I was trustee until Noah turned 25, with Marcus as backup trustee if anything happened to me. Evelyn had no control over it. None. Daniel made sure. She can't touch his trust, I said. Legally, no. But she can try to make you look financially or emotionally unfit to manage it. I was quiet, Marcus continued. Claire, this may not be about winning immediately. It may be about exhausting you. She wants to create enough smoke that people assume there's fire. Smoke. That was Evelyn's true talent, not open flames. Smoke in rooms, smoke in conversations. Smoke around my motherhood until people squinted and wondered if maybe I was the problem after all. What do? Same thing as before. Document. Do not engage. And come to my office this afternoon. There are parts of Daniel's estate file we need to review. What parts? The ones he told me to hold unless Evelyn escalated beyond custody. I stared through the windshield. There's more? Marcus's voice softened. Claire? Daniel spent his last year preparing for his mother because he knew grief would make you tired, and she would miss tired for week. I looked toward the school doors. I hate that he had to spend his last year doing that. I know. And I hate that I'm grateful he did. I know that too. At Marcus's office, the receptionist led me to the conference room, where Daniel and I had signed updated papers during his illness. I hated that room. Not because anything cruel had happened there, because love had become signatures there. Daniel in a gray sweater, thinner than before, making jokes about legal fonts. Me trying not to look at his shaking hand as he signed documents no 37-year-old father should have needed. Marcus entered with a banker's box. Not a file. A box. He placed it on the table. Daniel called this the Evelyn file. I stared at it. He named it? Yes. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Of course he did. Marcus opened the box. Inside were folders labeled in Daniel's handwriting. Custody interference, financial pressure, foundation misuse, school access, medical decisions, public narrative. I touched the folder names with my fingertips. He never told me it was this much. He didn't want you living inside the war before it began. That sounds like him. Marcus sat across from me. Some of this is painful. I'm already in pain. This is different. I looked up. Show me. He opened the first folder. Emails. Old ones. From Evelyn to Daniel before his diagnosis and during treatment. At first they looked normal. Motherly. Concerned. Then the language sharpened. Daniel, I know Claire means well, but she does not understand the responsibility of raising a Whitmore. Daniel, I worry Noah is becoming too attached to her side of life. Daniel, the estate offers stability she cannot provide. Daniel, if your condition worsens, we need to discuss transitional guardianship. Daniel, I am not trying to take over. I am trying to prevent chaos. Daniel's replies were shorter. No, Claire and I have made our decision. Stop asking. Noah is not moving to the estate. Do not contact his school again. If you raise guardianship with Claire, I will consider it harassment. I read that one twice. Again. Evelyn had tried to contact the school before. Marcus saw my face. That was when Noah was 5. Daniel shut it down before you knew. He protected me from it. He protected both of you. I swallowed hard. What else? Marcus opened the foundation misuse folder. Inside was a draft proposal Evelyn had created 6 weeks before Daniel died. The Daniel Whitmore Child Wellness Initiative. A program supposedly designed to support children grieving the loss of a parent. On paper, it sounded beautiful. Counseling vouchers, family support groups, educational grants, memory preservation workshops. But Daniel had scribbled notes in the margin. No clinical oversight. Too much family branding. Mother wants my name on donor campaign. Noah used in launch materials? Absolutely not. Marcus slid over an email from Daniel to Evelyn. Mom, you may not use my diagnosis, my name, Claire's image, or Noah's story to raise money for the foundation. If you want to support grieving children, do it without turning my family into a donor asset. Daniel. I pressed my fingers against my mouth. Donor asset. That was what Evelyn saw when she looked at pain. A story to arrange under flattering light. Marcus said, the foundation meeting this Wednesday likely means she's reviving the program. With Noah as the symbol, possibly. I thought of Noah's face in court. Daddy helped? I wanted to walk into Evelyn's boardroom and tear every framed donor photograph off the wall. Instead, I said, what can we do? Daniel anticipated this. Marcus opened another folder. Inside was a signed cease and desist letter Daniel had prepared but never sent. It prohibited the Whitmore Foundation from using his name, likeness, medical story, family photographs, correspondence, or any reference to his child in fundraising, programming, or donor communications without written approval from me as executor of his estate. It was dated 3 months before he died. He signed this, I asked. Yes. Why wasn't it sent? He decided not to send it unless she crossed the line. He said sending it while he was alive would start a war he didn't have energy for. But now she scheduled a board meeting. I sat back. Send it. Marcus nodded. I already drafted the updated version. For the first time all morning I breathed. Then he handed me one more folder. Claire, there's another issue. I hated those words. What? Evelyn is not the only one moving sideways. He placed a bank statement in front of me. It was connected to the Whitmore family holdings account, not Daniel's private trust. Preston accessed an old family reimbursement agreement tied to Daniel's medical expenses. I don't understand. During Daniel's illness, Evelyn paid certain medical bills up front. Yes, she insisted. Daniel hated it. She later requested reimbursement from his estate. Daniel refused because many of those expenses were not actually medical. Concierge services, estate drivers, foundation event costs disguised as caregiver expenses. I remembered fights about that. Daniel furious at the kitchen table saying, "She billed my cancer to her image," Marcus continued. Those claims were denied, but Preston has now resubmitted a revised claim through Family Holdings. For how much? $386,000. I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Of course. If they can establish that Daniel's estate owes the family, they can argue you are mismanaging estate obligations. And if I refuse, they'll frame you as withholding money from Daniel's grieving mother. I looked at the statement. $386,000. Evelyn had lost in court, and within 72 hours she had found a foundation door, a financial door, and a reputation door. Marcus watched me. You don't have to handle all of this today. Yes, I do. No, Claire, you have to survive today. Handling it is my job. That sentence nearly undid me. For over a year, Daniel and I had lived inside medical emergencies, legal paperwork, parenting fear, and grief. Then after he died, Evelyn made every boundary feel like a battle I had to fight alone. Having someone say my job was to survive, not carry every weapon, felt almost indecently kind. I nodded. What do you need from me? Permission to act aggressively. You have it. Good. He closed the box. Then here is the plan. We send the cease and desist to the foundation by close of business. We send a rejection of Preston's reimbursement claim with supporting documentation. We notify the court of post-hearing pressure attempts if they continue, and we request preservation of all foundation documents related to Daniel's name, Noah's image, and any donor communication. Will that scare her? Marcus looked at me. No. It will anger her. I almost smiled. At least that's honest. Anger makes her sloppy. She's already sloppy. No, he said. She's sloppy comes next. He was right. By Wednesday afternoon, Evelyn went from elegant to reckless. The first sign came from a friend I had forgotten still sat on the Whitmore Foundation Junior Board. Her name was Simone Tate, a pediatric speech pathologist who had worked with me years earlier. She texted me at 2:34 p.m. Claire, "Are you aware Noah's photo is in a donor deck being discussed right now?" My vision tunneled. I typed back, "Send it." 3 minutes later, a PDF arrived. The title slide read, "The Daniel Whitmore Child Wellness Initiative Preserving Family, Healing Grief, Protecting Legacy." Under the title was a photograph of Daniel holding Noah on his shoulders at a 4th of July picnic. A private photograph. Taken by me, never released publicly. Slide 4 showed another image. Noah at Daniel's hospital bed, holding a stuffed rabbit. My entire body went cold. That photo was taken 3 days before Daniel died. It was sacred, painful, private. Evelyn had used it in a donor presentation. Slide 5 included a quote attributed to a Whitmore family member. No child should be cut off from the family that shaped his father. Slide 7 proposed a model case study of a child navigating paternal loss after maternal withdrawal from extended support systems, not named, but obvious. My son had become a case study. My grief had become donor language. I called Marcus. He answered with, "I saw it." Simone must have sent it to him too. My voice shook for the first time in days. Marcus. "I know. That hospital photo. I know. He was dying. I know, Claire. I took that picture so Noah could remember being loved, not so Evelyn could raise money. Marcus's voice changed, not louder, colder. I am filing emergency injunctive relief against the Foundation. Today? Now. By 5 o'clock, the cease and desist had been served. By 6, Marcus had filed a motion seeking an emergency order prohibiting the Foundation from using Daniel's name, Noah's image, or any family medical photographs pending estate review. By 7, Evelyn called me from an unknown number. I knew I should not answer. I did anyway. Not because I wanted to fight. Because I wanted to hear what kind of woman used a photo of her dying son and grieving grandson in a donor deck and still believed she was righteous. "Claire," she said. Her voice was not soft this time. It was sharp enough to cut paper. "You have gone too far." I stood in my bedroom, looking at the framed photo of Daniel on my dresser. "I went too far? You are trying to destroy everything my son stood for." "No," I said. "I'm stopping you from selling the worst day of his life to donors." Her breath caught. "How dare you?" "How dare I what? Remember who was in that room? Remember Noah crying beside Daniel's bed? Remember that you didn't even visit that day because you had a Foundation luncheon?" Silence. Then she said, "I was raising money for families like ours." "No, Evelyn. Families like ours were upstairs begging cancer to give us one more conversation while you posed with donors under a floral arch." Her voice turned icy. "You are a cruel woman. No, I am done being polite about cruel things." "You think you own Daniel's memory." "No," I said. "I guard Noah's access to it. You are not the only person who lost him." "I never said I was. You behave like your grief outranks mine." I closed my eyes. There it was. The competition under every action. Who lost more? Who loved more? Who had more right to the dead? "I am not competing with you," I said. "I am protecting my child. He is my grandson. He is not your replacement son." The line went dead quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was lower. "You will regret saying that." "I regret not saying it sooner." She hung up. My hands were shaking when I set down the phone. A second later, Noah appeared in the doorway. "Mom?" I turned quickly. His hair was damp from his bath. He wore dinosaur pajamas again, one foot tucked over the other. "How long have you been there?" "Not long." I knelt. "Did you hear me talking?" He nodded. "Was it grandmother?" I took a breath. "Yes." "Is she still mad?" "Yes." He looked down. "Because of me?" "No." I said it so fast he startled. I softened my voice. "Noah, look at me." He did. "Adults are responsible for their own feelings." "Grandmother is mad because she is not getting what she wants." "That is not your fault." His eyes searched mine. "Did she use Daddy's picture?" My stomach dropped. He had heard more than I thought. I sat fully on the floor and held out my arms. He came into them. "She used a picture she should not have used," I said carefully. "Mr. Marcus is making sure she cannot do that again." "Was it the hospital picture?" I closed my eyes. Yes, his small body went stiff. "I don't want people looking at Daddy sick. I know. That's mine. 2 words. That's mine. His grief, his memory, his father, his last hospital days. Not Evelyn's donor story, not the Foundation's emotional asset. His." I held him tighter. "You're right," I said. "It's yours." That night, Noah slept in my bed, again. At 2 a.m, I woke up to him whispering in his sleep, "No vote. No vote." I lay there in the dark, listening to my son relive a dining room full of raised hands, and something inside me hardened into a boundary no court order could fully describe. Evelyn had not only attacked my custody, she had attacked his sense of safety. Now she had attacked his private grief. She was not going to stop unless every institution she used look as a weapon was forced to turn and look at her. The Emergency Foundation hearing happened Friday. Different courtroom. Different judge. This time probate and estate jurisdiction. Evelyn did not wear cream. She wore black, mourning armor. Her attorney argued that the Foundation had a good faith mission to honor Daniel's legacy, and that the materials were internal drafts never intended for public distribution. Marcus stood with the donor deck projected on a screen. Noah's hospital photo appeared, blurred for the courtroom, but still recognizable to me. He sees... This photograph was taken by Claire Whitmore in a private hospital room 3 days before Daniel Whitmore died. It was never licensed, assigned, released, or authorized for Foundation use. Evelyn stared straight ahead. Marcus continued. The Foundation not only used the image without consent, it used the child's emotional trauma as donor language while active custody litigation involving that child was pending. The judge, an older man named Judge Patel, looked deeply unimpressed with Evelyn's Foundation halo. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "who approved this deck?" Evelyn said, "It was an internal preliminary draft prepared by staff." "Who provided the photographs?" She hesitated. "I had access to family albums." "That was not my question." Her face tightened. "I provided them." "Did you have permission from the child's mother?" "I am the child's grandmother." Judge Patel removed his glasses. "That is also not an answer." Evelyn's mouth closed. Marcus presented Daniel's signed restriction letter, the one he had prepared before death, the one telling the foundation not to use his name, likeness, diagnosis, family story, or Noah. Judge Patel read it quietly, then looked up. "Mrs. Whitmore, your son explicitly prohibited this." Her voice trembled. "He was ill." Judge Patel's expression hardened. "I have reviewed the attorney certification attached to this document. There is no evidence he lacked capacity. He was afraid of upsetting Claire." "No," Marcus said. Everyone looked at him. He placed another document before the court. Daniel recorded a video statement the same day this letter was signed. "We intended not to use it unless necessary. Given continued attempts to undermine his capacity, we believe it is necessary." Evelyn's face changed in a way I will never forget. The blood seemed to leave it from the inside. "No," she whispered, but Judge Patel allowed it. The courtroom screen lit up. Daniel appeared, thin, pale, wrapped in a gray cardigan, sitting in Marcus's office, alive. For a moment, I stopped being in court. I was a wife seeing my husband move again. Daniel looked into the camera. His voice was weaker than before, but clear. "My name is Daniel Whitmore. I am recording this because my mother will likely claim, after my death, that any limits I placed on her were caused by illness, fear, or Claire's influence." "That is false." Evelyn made a sound behind her hand. Daniel continued, "I love my mother. I also know her. She will use my name if she believes it gives her moral authority. She will use my illness if she believes it gives her sympathy. She will use Noah if she believes it gives her purpose." My tears fell silently. Daniel looked tired, so tired, but his eyes were steady. "I am asking that my name not be used for foundation programming without Claire's consent. I am asking that my son's image not be used in any donor materials. I am asking that my illness not be turned into a campaign. If my family wants to help grieving children, they should do so without using mine as proof of their compassion." He paused, swallowed, then smiled faintly. "Mom, if you are watching this, it means you did exactly what I asked you not to do. Please stop. If not for Claire, then for Noah. Let my son remember me as his father, not as your fundraiser." The video ended. No one spoke, not Evelyn, not her attorney, not the judge, not even Marcus. For the first time since Daniel's death, Evelyn had been confronted not by my memory of him, not by my interpretation, not by my grief, by him. Judge Patel issued the order within 20 minutes. The foundation was prohibited from using Daniel's name, image, diagnosis, medical history, family photographs, Noah's likeness, or any references to the custody dispute in fundraising or programming. All donor decks containing the materials had to be destroyed and certified. All board members who viewed them had to receive a corrective notice. The foundation had to preserve communications regarding the Daniel Whitmore initiative. And Evelyn personally was ordered not to represent herself as acting on Daniel's wishes in any foundation capacity. That last line hit her hardest. I could see it, because Daniel's wishes had been her favorite mask. Now the court had taken it away. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn did not approach me. She stood near the windows with Preston, her face turned away, one hand gripping her pearls. Marcus and I walked past. I did not look at her, not because I was afraid, because the video had emptied me. I got to my car, closed the door, and finally sobbed. Not delicate tears, a sound from somewhere lower than language. Daniel had recorded himself while dying to protect us from his mother. That love was a gift. It was also unbearable. When I got home, Noah was at the kitchen table with my mother, building a cardboard volcano for school. He looked up. "Did Mr. Marcus stop the picture?" I wiped my face quickly. "Yes." "Good." Then he returned to painting lava. Children are amazing that way. They can hold terror, pancakes, court orders, dead fathers, and cardboard volcanoes in the same week because adults give them no choice. I sat beside him. "Daddy made a video too," I said softly. Noah's brush froze. "Can I see it?" "Not that one yet." "Grown-up parts?" "Yes." He nodded seriously. "Did he say me?" I smiled through tears. "Yes," he said you. Noah dipped his brush into red paint. "Good. By the next Monday?" Evelyn's public image began to crack, not collapse. Whitmore Women did not collapse in public, but the foundation board received Judge Patel's corrective notice. Then the donor relations chair resigned. Then 2 junior board members asked questions about governance. Then Simone Tate, the woman who leaked the deck, submitted a formal complaint about misuse of beneficiary imagery. The Whitmore Children's Foundation had spent years presenting itself as the moral heart of Nashville philanthropy. Now its own board was asking why its chair had used a dying son and a grieving grandson in donor materials against a court order. Evelyn issued a statement, no names, no admission. The foundation is reviewing internal processes to ensure all legacy-based initiatives align with our values and respect the privacy of families we serve. I read it once and sent it to Marcus. He replied, translation, she's bleeding, but Evelyn was not done. On Tuesday evening, as I was making Noah grilled cheese, there was a knock at the door. Not a polite knock, official, 3 firm strikes. My mother was in the living room helping Noah with his volcano labels. I wiped my hands on a towel and looked through the peephole. 2 women stood on the porch. One held a clipboard. The other wore a badge clipped to her jacket. Child Protective Services. For a second, the kitchen disappeared. Then I remembered to breathe. I opened the door. Mrs. Claire Whitmore? Yes. My name is Dana Fields. This is my colleague Aaron. We received a report concerning possible emotional instability and unsafe conditions for a minor child in the home. My mother came up behind me. Her face went white. Noah called from the living room. Mom? I turned. Stay with Grandma. Everything's okay. Everything was not okay, but panic would feed the report. I let the workers in. The house was clean, but lived in. Noah's backpack by the bench, shoes near the door, dishes from dinner prep, a cardboard volcano on the table, a grief workbook on the shelf, family photos on the wall, Daniel everywhere, but not as a shrine, as a life still loved. Dana Fields was professional, not cold, professional. I understand this may feel upsetting, she said. It does, I replied. But you have a job. She looked at me carefully. That answer was not what she expected. Can you tell us who might have made the report? She could not answer directly, but I knew. Of course I knew. The report alleged that I was sleeping in my son's room every night, refusing him outside family contact, crying uncontrollably, and telling him his grandmother wanted to steal him. A perfect mix of truth twisted into poison. Yes, I had slept near him after court because he was having nightmares. Yes, I had blocked unsupervised contact by court order. Yes, I had cried. No, I had not told him Evelyn wanted to steal him. She had shown him. Dana asked to speak with Noah privately. I wanted to say no. Every cell in my body said no. But Marcus had prepared me for this possibility too. If CPS comes, cooperate calmly. Ask for names. Ask what is alleged. Call me. Do not obstruct. Do not perform. So I said, of course. He may have his therapist's comfort card with him if he wants. Dana nodded. That's fine. I called Marcus while Aaron looked around the kitchen. He answered instantly. CPS is here. His silence lasted half a second. I'm on my way. You don't have to. I'm on my way. Dana spoke with Noah in the dining room while the door stayed partly open. I could not hear every word. I heard enough. Do you feel safe at home? Yes. Does your mom scare you? No. Grandmother scares me when she says court things. What court things? She had hands vote. My eyes closed. Dana's voice softened. What did that feel like? Like I was a toy they wanted. My mother quietly sat down beside me at the kitchen island and took my hand. Noah continued. Mom says adults are responsible for their own feelings. She says I don't have to make grandmother happy. Dana asked, do you miss your grandmother? A pause. Then Noah said, I miss when I thought she was safe. That was the sentence that ended Evelyn's last clean mask. Dana Fields came back into the kitchen 20 minutes later. By then Marcus had arrived, calm but breathing slightly hard. Like he had walked fast from his car, he handed Dana copies of the court orders before she asked. Family court order, foundation injunction, school incident report, therapist contact information. Judge Harrow's restrictions, Dana read silently. Then looked at me. Mrs. Whitmore, based on what we've observed tonight, there is no immediate safety concern in this home. My knees almost gave. But we will complete our process, she continued. Given the active litigation, documentation matters. I understand, Marcus said. We would also like to know whether the report included allegations already addressed by court order. Dana looked at him. I cannot discuss reporter identity, but I can say we take misuse of reporting systems seriously. Good, not enough, but good. After they left, Noah came into the kitchen holding his volcano. Are they taking me? I dropped to my knees. No. Promise? I pulled him close. Promise, he whispered. I hate court. I know. I hate votes. I know. I hate grown-ups saying safe when they don't mean safe. I looked at my mother over his shoulder. Her face crumpled. So do I said. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Marcus, my mother, and I sat at the kitchen table. No one touched the tea. Marcus looked exhausted for the first time since this began. This is no longer just a custody dispute, he said. What is it? Harassment, retaliation, potential malicious reporting, court order circumvention, foundation misuse, financial pressure, school interference. My mother whispered, Can you stop her? Marcus looked at me. Yes, but Claire needs to decide how far she wants to go. I already knew. The family vote had hurt me. The petition had terrified me. The foundation deck had enraged me. The CPS report had done something else. It had made the war public in the most dangerous way. It had brought strangers to my door and made my son answer questions about whether he was safe in his own home. Evelyn had crossed from control into cruelty with institutional consequences. I looked at Marcus. How far can we go? His eyes sharpened. All the way, I nodded. Then we go all the way. All the way, Marcus repeated, not as a question, as a confirmation. Then he opened his laptop at my kitchen table while my mother rinsed untouched mugs at the sink because she needed something to do with her hands. Noah was asleep upstairs, but I could still hear his voice from earlier. I hate grown-ups saying safe when they don't mean safe. That sentence became the line I could not step back from. Before the CPS visit, some exhausted part of me had still wanted a quiet ending, a court order, a boundary, a few months of silence. Maybe therapy, maybe distance. Maybe Evelyn would decide that losing access to Noah was too painful and finally stop. But the report changed everything, because it told me Evelyn did not just want Noah near her. She wanted me legally questioned. She wanted my home inspected. She wanted strangers to look at my son and ask whether his mother scared him. She wanted her story written into official systems, even if that meant forcing Noah to relive the family vote through a child protective interview. That was not grief. That was strategy. Marcus sent 3 filings the next morning. First, a notice to family court documenting the CPS report and requesting that the court order disclosure of any third-party complaints related to custody harassment. Second, a motion for sanctions and expanded no-contact protections based on the school incident, public pressure campaign, foundation misuse, and apparent retaliatory reporting. Third, a preservation letter to Evelyn, Preston, the Whitmore Foundation, Allison Greer, and every family member who had submitted statements against me. Preserve all communications, emails, texts, board materials, draft petitions, donor decks, social media messages, private group chats, voicemails. Notes regarding Claire Whitmore, Noah Whitmore, Daniel Whitmore's estate, custody, school access, foundation programming, and the CPS report. Marcus copied Evelyn's attorney. He copied the foundation's general counsel. He copied the court-appointed reunification therapist before the first appointment had even happened. At 10:42 a.m., Evelyn's attorney called Marcus. I knew because Marcus emailed me only one line afterward. Haynes is no longer enjoying his client. That should not have comforted me. It did. By noon, Preston called my mother. Not me. My mother answered because she did not know the number. I was in the living room sorting Noah's school papers when her face changed. She put the call on speaker without saying a word. Preston's voice filled the room. Mrs. Walker, I know you're staying with Claire. I'm asking you, woman to woman, to help us calm this down. My mother looked at me. I shook my head once. She said, This is Claire's decision. Claire is overwhelmed, Preston said smoothly. She has attorneys in her ear. Aunt Evelyn is devastated. This whole thing is getting out of hand. My mother's eyes hardened. She sent child services to my daughter's house. There was a pause. We don't know who made that report. No. And frankly, if someone had genuine concern. My grandson was asked if he felt safe in his own home because your family won't accept a judge's order. Preston's voice cooled. With respect, you don't understand the Whitmore family. My mother looked at me then, and I saw something in her I had not seen often. Anger. Not dramatic, not loud. A mother's anger finally given a clean target. No, she said, but I understand my daughter, and if you call me again to go around her, I'll record it and give it to her lawyer. Then she hung up. For 3 seconds, neither of us moved. Then she turned to me, hand shaking. I should have said worse. I almost laughed. Then I hugged her. Hard. Because in a week where everyone seemed to have a strategy, my mother had given me something simpler: loyalty. Evelyn responded the way Marcus predicted. She got elegant first. On Wednesday morning, her attorney filed a statement saying Evelyn had no knowledge of any CPS report, did not encourage any improper contact, regretted misunderstandings, and remained committed to Noah's healing. By Wednesday afternoon, Marcus received a copy of a letter from the Whitmore Foundation Board. It announced that Evelyn would be taking a temporary leave of absence as chair to focus on private family matters. Temporary, private, family matters. That was how wealthy institutions wrapped smoke damage in linen. But the board also announced an independent governance review. That part mattered. Simone Tate called me that evening. I was standing on the back porch while Noah and my mother played inside. I shouldn't be calling, Simone said. Then don't say anything you can't say. She exhaled. Fair. I just wanted you to know the board is scared. Of Evelyn? Of discovery. I leaned against the porch railing. What does that mean? It means after the donor deck leaked, people started checking files. The Daniel Initiative wasn't the only program with family images used loosely. Evelyn has been trading on personal tragedies for years, but nobody wanted to call it that because the money went to good causes. That sentence turned my stomach. The money went to good causes. The great excuse of polished exploitation. Simone continued. There are donors asking questions, families asking questions, staff who suddenly feel less afraid. I don't know where it ends. I looked through the window at Noah laughing as my mother pretended the cardboard volcano had erupted onto the sofa. I don't either. Claire, she said softly, I'm sorry I didn't question more before. You sent the deck. I should have asked years ago. Maybe, I said, but you asked now. That was all I had room for. Not absolution, not condemnation, just now. The sanctions hearing was set for the following Tuesday. Until then, Marcus told me to make Noah's life as ordinary as possible. Ordinary, a word that sounded almost luxurious. So we did homework, made spaghetti, packed lunches, went to therapy. Watched Noah's favorite movie 3 times because he said the ending made his stomach calm. At night, after he slept, I read Daniel's old letters. Not the big ones, for future birthdays. I was not ready. I read the small ones. The notes he left in books, the lists, the messages written on sticky notes and tucked into drawers. One said, If Mom offers help with conditions, it is not help, it is a lease. Another said, Noah should learn the Whitmore name is something he carries, not something that carries him. Another, written on the back of a pharmacy receipt, said, Claire will think she has to be fair to everyone. Remind her fairness to people harming you becomes unfairness to yourself. I read that one every night before the hearing. The morning of the sanctions hearing, I woke before dawn. Noah was asleep in his room. My mother was asleep on the couch because she had insisted she was just resting her eyes during a late movie and never moved. The house was quiet. I made coffee and stood in the kitchen staring at the court folder. Then I heard Daniel's voice in my memory, not from the video, not from the letter, from an ordinary morning before diagnosis, when we were both late and Noah had poured cereal into a plant pot. Daniel had looked at the chaos and said, We're not behind, we're just entering dramatically. I laughed so suddenly I covered my mouth. My mother stirred on the couch. You okay? She mumbled. For once, maybe. The hearing was more crowded than I expected. Evelyn arrived with Haynes, Preston, and a new woman I had not seen before. She wore a dark green suit and carried herself like someone expensive. Marcus leaned toward me. Crisis PR. Of course. Not a party to the case. Just here to scare Oxygen into behaving. I almost smiled. Judge Harrow entered at 9 sharp. This time she did not look patient. Marcus began by laying out the pattern, the family vote, the emergency custody petition, the school pickup attempt, the public posts, the foundation donor deck, the estate reimbursement claim, the CPS report. He did not accuse Evelyn of making the CPS report directly because we did not yet have proof. He did something better. He showed that every action came from the same purpose, to pressure me, to undermine my fitness, to create records suggesting instability, to access Noah, to control Daniel's memory, to punish boundaries. Haynes argued that Marcus was creating a conspiracy from unrelated grief responses. That phrase made Judge Harrow's pen stop. Unrelated grief responses, she repeated. Haynes said, Yes, Your Honor. This family is grieving. Mistakes may have been made, but there is no evidence of a coordinated effort to harass Mrs. Whitmore. Marcus stood again. Your Honor, may I call Mrs. Whitmore? Evelyn's attorney stiffened. Judge Harrow allowed it. Evelyn took the stand, still composed, still elegant, still wearing pearls. Marcus approached with a folder. Mrs. Whitmore, after the court denied your emergency custody petition, did you communicate with any member of your family about other ways to gain access to Noah? No. Did you communicate with Preston Whitmore about the school pickup attempt before it happened? No. Marcus handed her a printed text. Is this your message to Preston at 7:12 a.m. on Tuesday? Evelyn read it. Her face did not change. Marcus read aloud. If Claire refuses cooperation, school may be the only neutral place. Do not create a scene. Simply say family emergency. My heart began pounding. Marcus looked at her. Did you send that? Evelyn swallowed. Yes, but that has been taken out of context. Judge Harrow's eyes sharpened. Marcus asked, What context makes it appropriate to instruct someone without parental authority to approach a child's school and claim a family emergency? Evelyn said, I was desperate to know he was well. Then why not request a welfare check through proper channels? Because Claire had cut us off. By court order? That order came after. The school had already been notified because your petition was pending. Evelyn's mouth tightened. Marcus moved on. Did you provide photographs of Noah and Daniel for the foundation donor deck? That matter is being handled separately. Answer the question. Haynes objected. Judge Harrow allowed it. Evelyn said, Yes. Did you have Claire's consent? No. Did you know Daniel had signed a letter prohibiting that use? I did not believe it applied to internal materials. Marcus placed another text before her. Is this your message to Preston after receiving the cease and desist? Evelyn read silently. This time, color rose in her neck. Marcus read aloud. Claire thinks paper makes her powerful. Let the board see the photos before Marcus can bury Daniel's legacy. The courtroom went silent. Marcus asked, Did you send that? Evelyn looked at the judge, then back at Marcus. Yes. I stared at the table. Claire thinks paper makes her powerful. No, paper had made Daniel's wishes harder to erase. That was what she hated. Marcus pulled another document. Did you discuss filing a child protective report with any person after the court's temporary order? No. Did you text Ruth Whitmore on Monday evening? Someone outside the case should raise concern before Claire's instability becomes invisible again? Evelyn went still. Haynes stood. Your Honor, Judge Harrow's voice was flat. Sit down, counsel. He sat. Marcus gave the text to Evelyn. Did you send it? Evelyn's lips parted, then closed. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Whitmore answered, Yes, there it was, not the report itself, but the invitation, someone outside the case, raise concern. Before Claire's instability becomes invisible again. My mother made a small sound behind me. I did not turn around. If I looked at her, I would lose control, Marcus continued. Who is Ruth Whitmore, my sister? Did Ruth file the CPS report? I don't know. Did you ask her to? No. Did you intend for someone outside the case to contact authorities about Claire? Evelyn's face hardened. I intended for my grandson to be protected. From what? From isolation. From court-ordered boundaries? From Claire's control. Marcus paused, then said, Mrs. Whitmore, do you understand that your grandson told the CPS worker he felt like a toy your family wanted? Evelyn flinched. Finally, Marcus repeated, Do you understand that? Her voice lowered. He is 6. He does not understand. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. No further questions. That answer did more damage than anything else. He is 6. He does not understand. The same belief under every action. Noah's fear did not matter because Evelyn had decided she knew the meaning of his life better than he did. Judge Harrow ordered a recess. When she returned, she issued a written ruling from the bench. She found that Evelyn had engaged in a pattern of coercive and retaliatory conduct. She expanded the no-contact order. Evelyn, Preston, Ruth, Marielle, Allison Greer, and any person acting on their behalf were prohibited from contacting Noah, his school, his therapists, his pediatrician, my employer, my mother, or any child services agency regarding Noah without court permission, except in a true emergency, with immediate notice to the court. She ordered Evelyn to pay my attorney's fees for the emergency hearings. She referred the matter of the CPS report communications for review. She ordered all future Whitmore family contact to occur only through the reunification therapist and only if Dr. Sloan agreed it would not harm Noah. Then she did something I did not expect. She addressed Evelyn directly. Mrs. Whitmore, grief does not give you ownership of a child. Wealth does not give you superior custody rights. Community reputation does not turn suspicion into evidence. And love, if it is love, does not require a 6-year-old to be frightened into belonging. Evelyn sat frozen. Judge Harrow continued, "If this court sees one more attempt to circumvent these orders, I will consider contempt sanctions, including fines and further restrictions." The gavel sounded. This time, I heard it. Outside the courtroom, Evelyn did not approach me. Preston did, but only close enough for Marcus to see him coming and step forward. Preston stopped with a bitter laugh. "You think you've won because a judge felt sorry for you." I looked at him. "No, I think you keep confusing pity with proof." His face twisted. "You were never one of us." For the first time, those words did not hurt. They clarified. "I know," I said. "That's why Daniel trusted me." Preston's mouth opened. No answer came. Then the crisis PR woman touched his arm and guided him away like a handler removing a dangerous animal from a public exhibit. Marcus watched them go. "That was satisfying," he said. "It didn't feel satisfying, no?" "It felt like finally putting locks on doors that should never have been opened." He nodded. "That's more useful than satisfaction." The consequences spread over the next month. Ruth admitted she had filed the CPS report after Evelyn's text. She claimed she acted independently out of deep concern. The agency did not charge her criminally, but the report was marked unsubstantiated, and the court added her specifically to the no-contact restrictions. Allison Greer lost 2 consulting contracts after Marcus sent her court testimony to a licensing-adjacent professional association that did not license her but did maintain ethics standards for family consultants. She sent a letter through her attorney saying she regretted insufficient context. Marcus replied with one sentence, "Your client had context." She ignored the child. I framed that email in my mind. The Whitmore Foundation Governance Review became more serious after board members discovered Evelyn had authorized donor materials using family medical images before. Not always with bad intent, perhaps, but always with the same assumption. If pain served the mission, permission could be cleaned up later. The board did not remove her immediately. People like Evelyn are never removed immediately. First came temporary leave, then advisory restrictions, then an outside audit. Then donors paused commitments, then the local paper ran a careful article. Whitmore Foundation reviewing legacy program practices after court order. No scandal words, no cruelty words, no mention of Noah by name. But in their world, careful articles were earthquakes. 2 weeks later, Evelyn resigned as chair. Her statement said she was stepping away to focus on healing and family privacy. Family privacy, after using my dying husband's hospital photo in a donor deck. I did not laugh when I read it. I was too tired. Preston lost his foundation role soon after, officially restructuring. Unofficially, everyone understood that being named in court as someone who tried to access a child at school was not good for a family wellness brand. The estate reimbursement claim disappeared, not withdrawn loudly, simply not pursued. The Whitmore family had built power out of soft pressure and polished rooms, but courtrooms changed the texture. Courtrooms asked who sent the text, who approved the deck, who contacted the school, who made the report, who had authority, who was harmed. For the first time, the Whitmore version of love had to answer questions under oath. It did not survive well. Noah did better slowly, not quickly. Children do not recover because judges issue orders. They recover because adults finally stop making every day dangerous. Dr. Sloan helped him draw a safe circle. Me, my mother, his teacher, Dr. Sloan. Marcus, whom Noah drew as a tall stick figure holding law papers. Daniel, drawn as a yellow star above the circle. At first, Noah put Evelyn outside the page entirely. Then one week, he drew her as a small purple dot far away. Dr. Sloan said that was progress, not forgiveness. Distance with shape. I started therapy again too, not because Evelyn was right, because trauma does not become less real when your enemies exaggerate it. My therapist, Dr. Amara Reed, asked me in our second session, "What are you most afraid would happen if you stopped being vigilant?" I said, "Someone would take Noah." She waited. I said, "Or Daniel would disappear." She waited again. Then I said the truest thing. "Or I would." That was the part I had not wanted to name. In the year after Daniel died, I had become mother, widow, legal shield, memory keeper, document manager, boundary setter, grief translator, and defendant in a war I did not start. Some inside all those roles was Claire. I missed her. I did not know where she had gone. Dr. Reed said, "Maybe she is not gone. Maybe she has been holding the door from the inside." I cried in that session harder than I had in court. Because the courtroom proved I was fit. Therapy reminded me I was human. In December, 3 months after the family vote, the reunification therapist held her first formal review. Evelyn requested supervised therapeutic contact with Noah. Marcus and I discussed it for 2 hours. Dr. Sloan gave input. Noah was asked in a careful, child-centered way whether he wanted to see grandmother. He said, "Not yet. That was enough. Not forever. Not never. Not yet." The therapist recommended no contact for another 6 months, with Evelyn required to complete individual therapy focused on boundaries, grief, and child-centered communication before any future consideration. Evelyn objected. Of course she did. But this time, her objection did not move the system. A child's not yet finally mattered more than a grandmother's now. Christmas came quietly. No Whitmore estate, no formal dinner, no pearls, no foundation cards. Just my mother, Noah, me, pancakes in snowman shapes, a crooked tree, and Daniel's old stocking hanging beside ours. On Christmas Eve, Noah asked if we could read one of Daddy's letters. I chose the one Daniel wrote for a hard day, not a birthday, not a milestone. A hard day. We sat on the couch under a blanket. Noah held the envelope. "You read it," he said, so I did. "Hey, Bug, if Mom is reading this, something probably feels heavy today. I hate that I am not there to make dinosaur pancakes or tell you my extremely famous joke about the lawyer and the penguin. Ask Mom. She hates it. That's why it's good. I want you to know something important. You never have to choose between loving me and loving Mom. You never have to choose between families like teams. You never have to make grown-ups feel better by pretending you feel okay. If someone tells you being a Whitmore means you must act a certain way, remember that your dad was a Whitmore and I once cried during a dog food commercial. So clearly, the rules are flexible. Be kind, be honest, listen to your body. Stay close to people who make you feel safe, and if anyone ever makes love feel like a test, tell Mom. She is the bravest person I know. Love, Dad." By the end, Noah was crying. So was I. My mother pretended to adjust the tree lights. Noah leaned against me. "Daddy was funny. He was very funny. Was he right? About what? You being brave." I looked at the letter, then at the boy we had made and loved and protected in every way we knew how. "I'm trying," I said. Noah nodded. "Me too. That was Christmas. Not perfect, but ours." In January, the final custody review hearing was scheduled. Not emergency. Final, Marcus said it would formalize long-term protections and close Evelyn's pending claims. By then, Evelyn's legal team had changed. Haynes withdrew after the sanctions hearing. Her new attorney was younger, less theatrical, and clearly more interested in settlement than legacy warfare. They proposed a consent order, no custody claim, no school access, no medical access, no public statements about me or Noah, no use of Daniel or Noah in foundation matters, no direct contact for 6 months minimum. Future contact only through therapist recommendation and my written consent or court order, attorney's fees paid, CPS-related communications acknowledged as inappropriate, no admission of malicious intent. That last line bothered me, no admission. After everything, Evelyn still wanted the exit door polished. Marcus said, "We can fight for more." What would more get us? Stronger language, possible contempt findings, more public record. Would Noah have to be involved again? Possibly through therapist updates. Not testimony. I thought about it all night. Justice is complicated when a child has to live near the consequences. Part of me wanted the court to name everything. To write coercion, harassment, emotional harm, retaliation in permanent ink. Part of me wanted Evelyn to stand up and confess that she had mistaken possession for love. But another part of me wanted the door closed. Not because Evelyn deserved softness. Because Noah deserved life beyond court dates. The next morning, I told Marcus, accept the consent order if Judge Harrow approves the protections. He nodded. That is a reasonable choice. It feels like letting her hide. It is also choosing your son's peace over your need for a perfect record. I looked at him. I hate when you sound like Daniel. He smiled sadly. He trained me. The final hearing happened on a rainy Thursday. Evelyn was there. For the first time, she was not wearing pearls, I noticed immediately. Her cream suit had been replaced by a charcoal dress. Her hair was still perfect, but her face looked older. Not softer, just older. She did not look at me when I entered. Preston was not there, neither was Ruth, neither was the wall of raised hands. Just Evelyn and her attorney. That absence mattered. Empires look different when the audience leaves. Judge Harrow reviewed the consent order carefully. She asked Evelyn if she understood the restrictions. Evelyn said yes. She asked if she understood any violation could result in contempt. Yes. She asked if Evelyn understood she had no custody rights under the order. A pause. Then yes. Judge Harrow looked at me. Mrs. Whitmore, do you agree to this order? I stood. Yes, Your Honor. Do you believe it protects your child's current needs? I took a breath. Yes. Do you enter it voluntarily? Yes. The judge signed. Just like that. Months of fear turned into signatures again. The hearing ended. Marcus packed his bag. I was turning to leave when Evelyn spoke. Claire. Marcus paused. I turned. Evelyn stood near her table, hands clasped in front of her. No pearls to grip, no family behind her, no judge asking questions. Just us. For one moment, I saw not the foundation chair, not the matriarch, not the woman who held a vote over my son's life. I saw Daniel's mother. A grieving woman who had been given every chance to love without owning and had failed. She said, "Did he really say that?" I knew what she meant. The letter, the video, all of it. Yes, I said. Her lips trembled. I thought he trusted me. I looked at her. He knew you. The words hurt her. They were meant to. Not cruelly, truthfully. She nodded once, as if something inside her had finally stopped arguing. Then she said, "I don't know who I am if I'm not needed." For the first time in months, I felt something almost like pity. Almost. But pity was not permission. "That is something to take to therapy," I said. She flinched. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed once, small and broken. Daniel would have said that. Yes, I said. He would. She looked down. Tell Noah. My body tightened. She stopped herself. Corrected. If the therapist ever says it is appropriate, I would like him to know I am sorry he was frightened. Not tell Noah. Not pass this message. If the therapist ever says it is appropriate. It was the first boundary-shaped sentence I had ever heard from Evelyn Whitmore. I did not reward it too much. That would have been dangerous for both of us. I said, "I'll follow the therapist's guidance." She nodded. Then I left. Outside, rain fell across the courthouse steps. Marcus opened an umbrella. Neither of us moved for a moment. "Is it over?" I asked. He looked at the gray sky. "The legal case?" "Mostly. And the rest?" "The rest becomes life. Life. Messy. Quiet. Unfinished. No dramatic applause. No final victory speech. Just a mother walking to her car in the rain, carrying a signed order that told a powerful family no. When I picked Noah up from school, he was painting a winter tree. "Court done?" he asked. "Court done. Forever? Maybe not forever. But for a long while, he considered that. Can we get waffles?" "Yes." "With chocolate chips?" Court done chocolate chip waffles are legally required. He smiled, a real smile, wide, missing one front tooth. And for the first time since the family vote, I saw my son look like a child who trusted the afternoon. Not the whole world, not yet. But the afternoon, that was enough. That afternoon was the first quiet victory we had that did not come from a courtroom. No judge, no lawyers, no sealed envelopes, no pearls. Just Noah in a booth at a diner, swinging his legs under the table, wearing a little paper crown the waitress had given him because she said every kid who survived a rainy day deserved one. He ordered waffles with chocolate chips, whipped cream, strawberries, and exactly 3 rainbow sprinkles because, in his words, too many makes it not serious. I ordered coffee I did not really want and watched him pour syrup carefully into every square. For months, my life had become evidence. Texts, orders, letters, reports, decks, screenshots, statements. Proof that I was safe. Proof that Daniel meant what he wrote. Proof that Evelyn had crossed lines. Proof that my son's fear was real. But in that diner, Noah did not need proof. He just needed warm waffles and a mother who was still sitting across from him. "Mom," he said, mouth half full. "Yes? If court is done, does grandmother still get to vote?" My throat tightened. "No," I said. "Nobody gets to vote on where you belong." He considered that very seriously, then nodded. "Good. Because I vote for waffles." I laughed. A real laugh. It surprised both of us. Noah smiled, and for 1 second, I saw as the weight lift from his small shoulders. Not all the way, not forever, but enough. That night, I put the signed court order in the fireproof box where Daniel had kept our most important documents: his will, Noah's birth certificate, the house deed, insurance papers, medical directives, letters, things no one wants to need until needing them becomes survival. I placed the order beside Daniel's blue envelope. Then I sat on the closet floor for a long time. The house was quiet. My mother had gone home to Oregon the day before, after making me promise I would call before pretending I was fine. Noah was asleep. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, and I was holding the folder that had protected us from the woman who still called herself family. I thought I would feel triumphant. I did not. I felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. Because winning a battle inside a family does not feel like winning. It feels like realizing the people who should have protected the child were the ones you needed protection from. The next morning, I took Noah to school. He paused at the entrance, then looked back at me. "You'll be here after?" "Always." He smiled a little. "I know. That was new, not the question. The trust after it." I sat in the car after he went inside and cried for exactly 4 minutes. Then I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and went back to work. That is the part people forget about survival. Bills still arrive. Children still need lunch packed. Emails still need answers. Grief does not pause because court ended. It just waits politely in the hallway until you come home. For the next few months, life became smaller on purpose. No Whitmore dinners, no foundation invitations, no carefully worded emails from Evelyn, no relatives checking in, no church ladies sending prayer messages wrapped around accusations, just school, therapy, work, pancakes, bedtime, and the strange quiet of not being constantly invaded. At first, quiet made me nervous. I had grown used to the next attack. The next filing, the next message, the next institution Evelyn would try to use as a doorway, so when my phone stayed silent, I kept checking it anyway. Dr. Reed noticed in therapy. "What are you waiting for?" she asked. I looked at my hands. "The next thing. And if the next thing does not come today, then I guess I wasted today waiting." She smiled gently. "Not wasted. Practiced. Your body learned to guard the door. Now we teach it that the door has locks. That became my work. Not legal work, human work. Learning that safety is not only the absence of danger, it is the presence of breath. The first major change came from the Whitmore Foundation. 6 weeks after Evelyn signed the consent order, Marcus received notice that the independent governance review had concluded. The foundation board requested a meeting with Daniel's estate representative. That meant me. I did not want to go. Every part of me wanted to tell them to mail whatever correction they owed and leave us alone. But Marcus said, "You do not have to attend. However, if you want the record corrected in the room where it was distorted, this is the chance." The room where it was distorted, that stayed with me, so I went. Not to forgive, not to perform, to correct. The foundation boardroom was exactly what I expected. Long polished table, portraits of donors, bottled water lined up like soldiers. White flowers in the center, because Whitmore women believed no room was too tense for hydrangeas. Evelyn was not at the head of the table. That was the first thing I noticed. Her chair was empty. The new interim chair, a woman named Dr. Helena Morris, greeted me with both hands folded in front of her. No fake hug, no overdone sympathy. That helped. "Mrs. Whitmore," she said, "thank you for coming." I almost corrected the name. Whitmore. I still had it legally. For Noah, for paperwork, for Daniel. But inside, the name felt like a coat I wore because weather required it. Marcus sat beside me. The board's attorney sat across from us. Dr. Morris opened a folder. The review found serious governance failures in the preparation of the Daniel Whitmore Child Wellness Initiative materials. Unauthorized private images were used. Consent protocols were ignored. Personal family litigation was improperly referenced. Mrs. Evelyn Whitmore exercised inappropriate unilateral control. She said it all plainly. No misunderstanding, no high emotions, no family grief, just facts. Then she slid a document toward me. "This is the corrective statement approved by the board." I read it. The Whitmore Children's Foundation acknowledges that materials prepared for a proposed initiative use the name, image, and private family history of Daniel Whitmore and his minor child without proper authorization. Those materials were inappropriate and have been destroyed. The Foundation regrets the harm caused to Daniel Whitmore's widow and child and has implemented new consent and privacy protections. My eyes stopped on one word: harm. They named harm. Not discomfort, not confusion. Harm. I looked up. Will this be sent to everyone who saw the donor deck? Yes, Dr. Morris said, and entered into the board record. Will Evelyn receive it? Her expression did not change. Yes, I nodded. That should have been enough. Then Dr. Morris said, There is one more matter. Marcus shifted beside me. The board attorney opened another folder. As part of the review, we discovered restricted donations made in Daniel's name after his death. Some of those donors believed they were contributing to a program approved by his estate. I went still. How much? $412,000. My stomach turned. Dr. Morris continued quickly. The funds were not spent. They were held in a restricted account pending program launch. The board would like to return them to donors or, with your consent as a state representative, redirect them to a legitimate child grief support program not branded with Daniel's name or Noah's story. Daniel would have known what to do immediately. I needed a minute. Marcus leaned toward me. We can ask for time. I looked at the donor list. People had given because Evelyn had used Daniel's pain as a lantern. That could not be undone. But maybe the money could still do what the lie only pretended to do. I thought of Noah whispering, "That's mine," when he learned about the hospital photo. I thought of Daniel's letter. If my family wants to help grieving children, they should do so without using mine as proof of their compassion. I looked at Dr. Morris. Remove Daniel's name. Remove all references to our family. Build the program under clinical oversight. No donor events using child stories without consent. No photos from private grief. No legacy language. Help children quietly. Dr. Morris nodded. That is reasonable. No, Marcus said softly, and everyone looked at him. He turned to the board. It is more than reasonable. It is the condition. The board agreed. 3 months later, the foundation launched a small, clinically supervised grief therapy fund through 2 local hospitals. No gala, no stage, no photo of Daniel, no Noah. Just money going where pain had originally been used. I did not attend. I received a 1-page report from Dr. Morris. 27 children served in the first quarter. I printed it and placed it in Daniel's box. Not because I forgave Evelyn, because Daniel would have wanted the harm converted into care if it could be. That was the difference between him and his mother. Evelyn wanted pain to prove something about herself. Daniel wanted pain to stop spreading. The first letter from Evelyn arrived in April. It came through the reunification therapist, sealed, screened, and labeled, not for Noah unless approved. Dr. Sloan read it first, then Marcus, then me. It was not addressed to me. It was addressed to Noah. My dear Noah, I am sorry you were frightened at the dinner. I thought I was protecting you, but I made you feel unsafe. That was wrong. You did not deserve to hear adults speak about you as if you were not there. You did not deserve to wonder whether you would be taken from your mother. Your father loved you. Your mother loves you. I should have remembered that love does not need to win a vote. I am working with someone to understand my mistakes. You do not have to answer this letter. You do not have to see me until you are ready, and if you are never ready, that will be my consequence, not your fault. Grandmother Evelyn, I read it 3 times. I hated that it was better than I expected. I hated that part of me wanted to hand it to Noah immediately and say, "See, maybe some adults can learn." But healing is not a shortcut for the person who caused the wound. Dr. Sloan said, "This is a good letter. That does not mean Noah needs it today." So we waited. 2 weeks later, during therapy, Noah asked if grandmother had said sorry. Not because anyone told him, because children feel the shape of silence. Dr. Sloan asked if he wanted to know. He nodded. She read a child-sized portion of the letter. Not all of it, just the parts that belonged to him. You did not deserve to feel unsafe. You do not have to see me until you are ready. That will be my consequence, not your fault. Noah listened quietly. Then he said, "She sounds different." Dr. Sloan asked, "How does that feel?" He shrugged. "Good and weird." Then he asked if he could draw instead of talk. That was enough for one day. Progress is often smaller than adults want it to be. A sentence, a drawing, a child sleeping through the night, a mother not checking the lock 3 times, a grandmother writing consequence instead of misunderstanding. By summer, Noah stopped asking if I would come back after school every morning. He still asked sometimes, but not every day. His nightmares faded. He started soccer, though he mostly liked the snacks. He made a friend named Milo, who had 2 moms, a loud laugh, and 0 interest in Whitmore family politics. One afternoon, I watched them chase each other across the park with grass stains on their knees, and I realized Noah had gone 10 whole minutes without looking back to find me. That might sound small. It was enormous. He trusted the distance. He trusted I would still be there. I sat on the bench and let the sun warm my face. For the first time since Daniel died, I felt something like the future arrive without asking permission. In August, Marcus invited me to his office for what he called one final Daniel matter. I told him if it involved another sealed envelope, I was going to throw something. He smiled. No envelope. It was a video, not like the courtroom one. This one was for me. He had waited until the legal storm settled because Daniel had instructed him not to give it to me while I was actively being hunted by my mother. Daniel's words, not Marcus's. I sat in the same conference room where so much of our grief had become paperwork. Marcus set the laptop in front of me and left the room. The video began. Daniel sat on our old couch, wrapped in the blue blanket Noah now used when he was sick. He looked thin, but his eyes were bright. "Hi, Claire," he said. I covered my mouth. "I hope Marcus waited until you were safe to show you this. If he didn't, yell at him. He pretends to be calm. But he is very afraid of angry women with documentation." I laughed through tears. Daniel smiled at the camera like he knew. "I'm sorry," he said. "Not for dying, because that one is not technically my fault. Though I have filed several complaints with the universe. I'm sorry for what my family may put you through after I'm gone. I wish love alone could have stopped it. I wish me asking nicely had ever worked on my mother. It didn't." He took a breath. "You may be tired by the time you see this. You may be angry at me for knowing so much and leaving you to carry it. That's fair. Be angry. I just need you to remember something. I did not prepare the documents because I doubted you. I prepared them because I knew you would try to be fair to people who were not being fair to you." I cried harder. Daniel leaned slightly closer to the camera. "You do not owe my mother your softness. You do not owe my family your silence. You do not owe anyone access to our son because they share blood with him. Noah needs safe people, not impressive people, not wealthy people, not grieving people who refuse help. Safe people." He paused again, then his voice softened. "And Claire, you need safe people too." That sentence broke me. I had spent so long proving I was safe for Noah that I had forgotten to ask who was safe for me. Daniel continued, "I know you will keep him close. I know you will tell him about me. Tell him I loved bad jokes and overcooked eggs, and that I always let you win at Scrabble, because you became terrifying when you lost." "That is a lie," I whispered at the screen. Daniel smiled again. "Also tell him I was proud of his mom. Not because she fought everyone. Because she knew when to walk out of rooms built to hurt her. That is harder than fighting sometimes." He looked down, then back up. "One last thing. If my mother ever becomes someone safer, you are allowed to decide what to do then, not because you owe her. Not because I ask it. I don't. But because your life should not be ruled forever by defending against her worst self. Make room for peace wherever it can exist. Lock the door where it can't." The video ended with Daniel blowing a kiss at the camera and saying, "I love you, Claire. Keep the good snacks hidden from Marcus. He has no boundaries around cashews." Then the screen went black. I sat there for a long time. When Marcus came back in, I was still crying. He looked at the empty tissue box and said, "I told him the cashew line was unnecessary." I laughed and sobbed at the same time. Marcus sat across from me. "He loved you very much, I know, and for once, that knowing did not feel like a knife. It felt like a hand on my back. A year after the family vote, we returned to the Whitmore estate, not for a dinner, not for reconciliation. For a therapeutic visit, Noah had decided he was ready to see Evelyn for 30 minutes with Dr. Sloan present. I almost said no, not because of him, because of me. My body still remembered the dining room, the raised hands, the way Noah clung to me. But Dr. Sloan said, "Readiness does not mean comfort. It means he has enough safety to try." So we tried. The estate looked the same from the outside. Columns, trees, long driveway, perfect grass. But when we stepped inside, the house felt smaller. Maybe because the power had changed. Maybe because I had. The dining room doors were closed. I was grateful. The visit happened in the sunroom. Neutral enough, bright enough. No long table. Evelyn stood when we entered. She looked older. No pearls. Simple gray cardigan, hands empty. That mattered. She did not reach for Noah, she waited. Dr. Sloane sat in the corner. I sat beside Noah. Evelyn's eyes filled when she saw him, but she did not make her tears his responsibility. "Hello, Noah," she said. Noah leaned against me. "Hi," she swallowed. "Thank you for coming." He looked at Dr. Sloane. Dr. Sloane nodded gently. Noah said, "I'm still mad." Evelyn closed her eyes briefly. "I understand." "No," he said. "You don't. You made people vote." Evelyn's face tightened with pain, but she did not defend herself. "You're right," she said. "I did. It was wrong. You scared me. I know." "You used Daddy." Her hand moved toward her throat, then stopped before reaching for pearls that were not there. "Yes," she whispered. "I did." Noah looked down at his shoes. "I don't want to hug. You don't have to." "I don't want to come for dinners. You don't have to." "I don't want people saying Whitmore like it's a rule." Evelyn's mouth trembled. "It is not a rule." Noah looked at me. I nodded once. He turned back to her. "Okay, that was all. 30 minutes. No miracle, no tearful embrace, no family restored under golden light, just a child saying what hurt him and an adult finally not arguing with his pain." When we got into the car afterward, Noah was quiet. Then he said, "She listened better. Yes. Can people get less scary?" "Sometimes," I said. "If they do the work. Do we have to trust them fast?" "No." He nodded. "Good." Then he asked if we could get fries. We got fries. That visit became the model. Short. Supervised. No gifts without approval. No legacy talk. No Daniel wishes. No family pressure. Evelyn followed the rules, mostly. When she slipped, Dr. Sloane paused the visit. Once, Evelyn said, "Your father would be so proud of you for coming." Noah stiffened. Dr. Sloane intervened. "Try again without speaking for Daniel." Evelyn took a breath. "I am proud you told me what you needed. That was better. Not perfect. Better." Over time, Noah built his own version of her. Not the goddess of the estate. Not the villain of the dining room. A grandmother who had hurt him, who was learning to sit farther away, speak slower, and ask permission before touching his shoulder. That was healthier than the fairy tale. That was real. My relationship with Evelyn remained different. Cool, structured, no private calls, no emotional ambushes, no Claire darling voice, no pretending. At one supervised visit, she asked if she could speak to me for 2 minutes while Dr. Sloane stayed present. I agreed. Evelyn folded her hands. "I have been working with Dr. Menard," she said. "Her therapist." I nodded. She asked me what I thought would happen if I stopped trying to manage everyone. I waited. Evelyn looked down. I told her people would leave. I said nothing. She looked back up. Then she asked if maybe they were leaving because I kept trying to manage them. That sounded like a therapist earning her fee. Evelyn's voice shook. "I do not know how to love without arranging." For the first time, I saw the wound under the weapon. It did not excuse anything, but it explained the shape of the blade. I said, "Then learn before you arrange yourself out of Noah's life completely." She nodded. No argument. That was progress too. 2 years after Daniel's death, Noah and I held our own memorial for him at the lake. Not the Whitmore estate, not the chapel, not a foundation room. Just the lake where Daniel taught Noah to skip rocks badly and then pretended the rocks were defective. My mother came. Marcus came. Dr. Sloane said, "Rituals help children place grief somewhere outside their bodies," so Noah chose the ritual. We each told one funny Daniel story. Then Noah threw a rock into the water and said, "That one is for Daddy's terrible pancakes." Marcus said, "They were legally terrible." I said, "Objection sustained." Noah laughed. Then he took a folded paper from his pocket. "I wrote something," he said. He read it in a small, brave voice. "Dear Dad, I miss you. Court was bad. The vote was bad. But Mom said you helped, and I believe her. I like soccer now. But only when Milo plays goalie, because he is bad at it. Grandmother is learning not to be bossies. Mom is learning to sleep more. I am learning that safe people do not make you choose. Love, Noah." I cried. Marcus cried. My mother cried. Noah looked at all of us and said, "Too much crying. Daniel would have loved that." Later that night, after Noah fell asleep, I sat on the back porch with a cup of tea and opened Daniel's final letter to me. Not the video, a letter. The one Marcus said I would know when I was ready to read. It began, "Claire, do not let my death turn your life into a museum." I stopped there and laughed because that was so Daniel I could barely stand it. Then I kept reading. "Love me. Miss me. Tell stories about me. Keep my books if you want. Donate my ugly sweaters if you are finally ready to admit they were ugly, which they were. But do not build your life around guarding my ghost from my mother." Guard Noah's childhood. Guard your peace. Then live. Really live. Fall asleep during movies. Make friends who know nothing about court orders. Buy the expensive coffee. Take Noah somewhere with bad cell service. Let joy come back without feeling like you betrayed me. You cannot betray a man by living the life he loved you in. I pressed the letter to my chest. For the first time, I understood that Daniel had not only left documents to protect us from Evelyn, he had left permission to outgrow the war. That became the final healing. Not Evelyn's apology, not the court order, not the foundation correction. The final healing was realizing my life did not have to stay shaped like a defense. 3 years later, Noah is 9. He is taller now, all elbows and questions, with Daniel's crooked smile and my habit of labeling storage bins. He still sees Dr. Sloan once a month, mostly because he says her office has better markers than school. He plays soccer badly and proudly. He likes science kits, waffles, and correcting adults who say, "Boys don't cry." He says, "My dad cried at dog food commercials," which usually ends the conversation. Evelyn sees him once every 6 weeks in structured visits, sometimes at a park, sometimes at a museum, never at the long dining table, never without boundaries. Their relationship is careful, but it exists because Noah chose to let it exist one small step at a time. That matters. Preston moved out of the foundation world entirely after the governance review. He now works in real estate, where I assume people are less surprised by polished emptiness. Ruth sent an apology letter for the CPS report. It was not perfect, but it named what she did. I did not forgive her in a dramatic way. I simply stopped carrying the hope that she would become braver than she was. The Whitmore Foundation is smaller now, less glamorous, more regulated, better, according to Simone. The grief fund continues quietly. No gala, no child photos, no legacy speeches. Just therapy vouchers and hospital referrals and reports that say how many families were helped without turning their pain into decoration. Marcus remains our attorney and against his will family. Noah calls him Law Uncle, which he pretends to hate. My mother moved closer last year, not into my house. Close enough for Sunday dinners and emergency school pickups and the kind of ordinary support that does not announce itself as sacrifice. And me? I am still Claire, widow, mother, therapist. Woman who learned too much about family court. Woman who keeps documents in a fireproof box. Woman who now sleeps through most nights. I still miss Daniel every day, but grief has changed. It no longer feels like standing at the edge of a hole. It feels like carrying a warm stone in my pocket. Always there, sometimes heavy, sometimes comforting, always part of me. The dining room vote still comes back in flashes. 12 hands, Noah crying, Evelyn's voice saying protection, my own chair scraping the floor. But the memory no longer ends there. Now it continues. To the car, to Marcus's call, to Daniel's letter, to the judge reading his words, to Noah eating waffles in a paper crown, to the lake, to life after. Have you ever had someone call control love and pressure family? If you have, then you know how confusing it can feel when the people hurting you use the language of protection. They say they are worried. They say they are preserving tradition. They say they are acting for the child, for the family, for peace, for legacy, for the person who is no longer alive to correct them. But love that needs witnesses to overpower you is not love. Love that makes a child cry and then calls the child confused is not love. Love that demands access without accountability is not love. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk out before the room votes again. Sometimes the strongest proof is not a speech. It is a letter written before the lie could form, a court order, a therapy note, a child saying that scared me, a mother saying, I believe you. My mother-in-law held a family vote to take my son. She thought 12 raised hands could replace my husband's wishes. She thought money, reputation, and grief could sound enough like stability to make a judge hand her my child. She thought I was just a tired widow she could shame into surrender. But Daniel knew her. He knew me. He knew our son. And before he died, he wrote the truth in ink. 1 week after that dining room vote, the judge opened his letter and read the words Evelyn had spent months trying to outrun. My son belongs with his mother. That sentence did not bring Daniel back. Nothing could, but it brought his protection into the room. It reminded everyone that Noah was not a legacy object, not a replacement son, not a Whitmore possession, not a prize for the loudest grief. He was a child, our child, and he was already home. People ask me if I hate Evelyn. I do not. Hate is too much work to keep alive, but I do not trust her without structure. I do not confuse her progress with entitlement. I do not hand her my son's peace because she finally learned the correct words for apology. Boundaries are not revenge. They are architecture. They decide where doors go, which rooms stay locked, and who gets to enter the places that hold our most vulnerable selves. The Whitmore family once sat around a dining table and voted me unfit. Years later, if you ask Noah what happened, he does not say, "My grandmother tried to take me." He says, "My mom listened when I was scared. That is the story I wanted him to keep. Not the vote, not the court, not the raised hands, the listening. Because long after children forget exact words, they remember who believed their fear. I did. Daniel did. The court finally did. And eventually, even Evelyn began learning that love without listening is just control wearing perfume. On Daniel's birthday now, Noah and I make chocolate cake, not at the estate. In our kitchen, we light one candle. We tell one funny story. We read one small note from the box if Noah wants to. Then we blow out the candle together. Last year, Noah closed his eyes before blowing and whispered something I could not hear. I asked if he made a wish. He said no. I told Dad we're okay, and we are. Not untouched, not perfectly healed, not back to who we were before sickness, before court, before Evelyn's vote, but okay in a way that is honest, okay with locks on the doors, okay with waffles after hard days. Okay with grief that no longer belongs to anyone else's agenda. Okay with a family small enough to be safe and strong enough to grow carefully. My name is Claire Whitmore. My husband died, but he did not leave us undefended. My mother-in-law held a family vote to take my son. 12 hands went up, my son cried, and I walked out. 1 week later, a judge read Daniel's letter aloud, and the room learned what I already knew. A family can raise every hand it has. But truth only needs one voice on record, and Daniel's voice was enough.